Okay, there we go. There we go. How's everyone doing tonight? How's everyone doing tonight? Saturday night. I feel all right. Just a little bit of technical difficulties. I was a little worried we'd be a little late. Every time you're setting anything up for an interview or a live stream, and you have Discord and you have OBS, and you're going live in 1 minute and you're not getting audio, it's always fun. It's always fun. I don't know if you guys can hear the music. We'll find out in a minute here. But how's everyone doing tonight? We're doing something a little bit different. We have, it's been a while since I've done an interview. For those that remember, I had RCF, Russian Cat Food, Max, on the stream a couple months ago. And no music. Oh, that's because the music will be tied into Steve's voice, because he has an angelic voice. So we're going to tie the music in with that. So tonight I have a guest. I have Steve Builds, or Steve. As you may know him, for those who are unfamiliar with who Steve is, he's another member of the Voron team. Wow, that was really loud. Hopefully that works. So yeah, he's a member of the Voron team. He's worked on many of the recent releases, including the V2.4 R2, which I have somewhat assembled here. And he also has a YouTube channel, and he's on Twitter now, although he hasn't tweeted yet. He's got to get on that. So before we get started, make sure to go follow him. Go click the links in the description. Go subscribe. Go follow. Do the social media stuff. But I'm going to bring him in now. So we'll get started here. You should be good for voice. So I'll throw it away. So for Steve, for those that don't know who you are, here you are.
Perfect. Hey, everybody. I'm Steve. I have a member of the Voron design team, like Nero said. I think just kind of going into what I do, who I am, how I got here is probably the way to go. I've always been a builder. I've always been someone who loves to tinker, work on cars, work woodworking, metalworking, whatever. Model kits as a kid, electronics, all the electronics classes, just your general builder maker type. So I intended to go into mechanical engineering as a major in college, and got the I don't know to whatever degree anybody else has seen it, but huge burnout. But fortunately, I had an IT background to fall back on, and that's where my career is. So I've worked my way up. In my day job, I'm an IT manager, working for state government. I have a small team.
So at least one of us here has a proper education under their belt.
I never finished my education, but I'm of the generation, and probably one of the last generations that can really get away with what I've done with my career.
And out of high school, here's my resume. Hired on the spot. Here's a 401k. Retire at 60. Must be nice.
Working my way up, and so loving to work with tools, garage tools, whatever. I'd seen 3D printing out there, knew it existed. Get a little view of a piece that the stuff that I had seen was just terrible looking. Didn't really catch my attention for a long time. And in June of 2017, I had just come back from a big project at work. If anybody is familiar with the Oroville spillway incident that happened in the winter of 2017, I was a big part of the support team for that on the IT side.
Yeah, that was the one where the water got underneath in.
Yeah. So the dam was fine. The dam was always fine. It was the spillway that was damaged, and I continue to support activities around that project. It's going to probably be part of my workload for the rest of my career. But coming back from that, I was really looking for something else to do. I'd been away from home for months, and I was continuing to be off and on site. So I was looking for something. It's just what I do, looking for the next thing. RC cars is a big hobby off and on for me. That kind of stuff. Things that you get a wrench in and work on stuff. So I started looking at 3D printing a little more, and I almost bought a Monoprice Select Mini. as you're more than familiar with. So everything going okay?
There we go. There we go. I didn't have audio in this scene. I forgot I have to. As you can tell, we've kind of slapped this together almost not quite the last minute, but in OBS, my mic is a separate input. I forgot to add it to this scene, which I had to create. But yes, so you started with the monoprice.
Did anybody
Mini.
hear?
They were hearing you. They were here. Everyone heard you. They weren't hearing me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
They weren't hearing me when I'm in this screen. So we're good. We're good. Although I'm going to take the opportunity to shift
Monoprice Select Mini was the top of my list, and then I found out and did a little research and ended up buying a CR10.
See, I had the Monoprice Select Mini, and you know what? It's a fine little printer until it's not. Because it's from that generation, that it was like the first cheap 3D printer. Because for me, getting into 3D printing, it was... I was involved. I worked at an injection molding shop, so we had a 3D printer. It was a MakerBot like replicator, and a coworker had built one of those, the not lead screw, the threaded rod Prusa Mendel. He drew out a brass plug for his nozzle. Like he was one of the first guys that that first generation, and so I've always wanted to get into it. And then the Monoprice Select Mini, that was the cheap first printer that I saw, at least up here in Canada. So that's what I got started in. And you said, when did you get into it? Was
June of 2017.
So for me, it was a little bit later. It was Christmas of 2017 when I got that Monoprice Select Mini. My wife bought it for me for Christmas after I told her to buy it for me for Christmas because that's what I wanted. Little did she know she would end up giving up a room in the basement to that.
Yeah, little sidetrack, and I saw a question in chat. RC stuff I was into. Mostly two-wheel drive buggy type stuff, and I always had this desire to race, and I did a little bit at the local hobby shop, but I only attended a couple of races. It really, so many things are about the build for me. I will buy a kit, an RC kit, just to build it, and then it never gets used because that's 90% of the fun for me. So
I think I have a quadcopter. For a while there, I was going to get into quads. I bought a headset, I bought a quad, and by the time everything showed up from Banggood, it was like winter, like it got cold and crappy out. So I put it in a box and I put it on the shelf, and it's been like 3 years.
Yeah.
Because every spring I'm like, I'm gonna unbox it, and then the YouTube channel kind of blew up, and then the kids started getting older, and then it's like, oh yeah, I'll do it tomorrow, and then I forget about it for 2 months. So you might be able to hear the music now. There we go.
Yeah. So you can see a couple of the RC cars here. This bottom one is a B44D, and then above that it's team associated. Both of them are team associated. Above that is an older RC10 B4. And the B4 has seen track time, but the B44D below it hasn't. It's been run on my carpet.
Are those gas? Electric or gas?
They're electric. They're electric.
Okay.
It was a whole lot of fun to build, but I never found the time to get over to the local track.
Yeah, so. That's kind of the especially right now with the pandemic, having a hobby that you can do at home, that you can do it all at home versus a hobby where you have to like go somewhere to actually participate. I think that's why you've seen a lot of people get into 3D printing over the last like pandemic, because you've been on the Voron team since when shit started popping off.
Pandemic started.
The pandemic, and the growth that we've seen on this team and other 3D printing communities over the pandemic is everyone's at home now. They want something they can do to take their mind off stuff, and their vacation budgets, they have to spend it somewhere. So
yeah. So what I found in 3D printing is a never-ending build hobby, right?
Yes.
I can use the hobby to build the hobby.
Yeah.
And as you can see behind me, yeah, we're in the same boat.
I think you have more Vorons than me. I think you have more, because right now I got. Oh wait, that's a rat rake. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Right here.
I've got 9 right now, but one of them I'm giving away. How many do you got right now?
Right now, I think I have 12.
Ooh.
And I've built an extra, so I built that extra V0, that one that went to Kevin.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Kevin is the Klipper guy. For those that don't know, the creator of Klipper
Yeah.
or the maintainer of Klipper.
So just finding the CR10 and then really immersing into the mod community for that, and not really knowing what I'm doing, because my drafting or CAD experience in terms of on the programs was SketchUp, and then at that time I think was kind of the transition between what was that, Maker 123 or something. Autodesk had a product. They were just transitioning from that to Fusion 360, and I never got into Tinkercad, luckily, because
I think I did one thing in Tinkercad in all my years, and I printed it and it didn't work, and that's about my Tinkercad experience. So you use Fusion 360, right? That's your go-to right now?
Yeah. So
Okay.
when I started, the Maker license was pretty much full featured. It was a good product to learn on. I continue to use it. That's one I'm not familiar with any other CAD packages. I've looked at FreeCAD. I've looked at, just tried to do some of the stuff in OpenSCAD. But I'm comfortable. I can do everything I need in Fusion 360. Although at some point I want to learn another package. There's other stuff out there, especially with SolidWorks Maker license, stuff like that, getting into the affordable range. I'm fortunate I have right now I have a startup license of Fusion 360, so none of the restrictions have touched me yet.
Oh, I'm still on the free leech version, but I'm still working on my CAD skills. Right now that I'm using the V Minion as a kind of a test bed for figuring out how to do actual modeling of things I want to make. So, because that's the one thing I like about Fusion is you have access to the CAD models for everything in the McMaster Car catalog.
Oh, yeah.
It's awesome. Like when I was playing around with the when I was designing the CNC that never went anywhere, the Avro, it's just like it's a candy list. It's like, okay, I want to pull in this extrusion, I want to pull in this motor, I want to pull in this bearing, and it just, all the models are there. You just drag and drop them in essentially. So
yeah,
I don't know if other packages have that. Do other CAD software have that? I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing.
My experience is limited.
Same here. It's Fusion. That's about it.
I have a really good local friend who's a mechanical engineer. Grew up with him, went to school with him, and he gave me some pointers going into Fusion 360. The very first thing I wanted to design was a new spool holder to handle wider spools for my Prusa Mark III. And he gave me, I was fumbling through things, and he gave me a few like those core lessons in CAD that flipped the switch for me in how at least Fusion 360 works, and was able to build on that.
Yeah,
so,
it was that first that you have to understand, because when you launch it the first time, if you have no CAD experience, or in my case, Windows 3D Builder, sketching and extruding. Once you figure out like that's like your basic, and you can go quite far with just drawing shapes and extruding and subtracting and cutouts and whatnot. You bash your head against the wall, and if you have two monitors, having a help screen on the second one or Googling tips while you do it, it can get you pretty far. So
yeah. So I had the CR10 printed on it. I have the very first print I ever printed. People recognize this, I'm sure. It even has the remaining black filament from when Creality actually tested the thing. So painted or printed on blue painter's tape. And
my first print
is actually great.
My first print is at my toolbox at work, which I gotta go get at some point.
Probably a little better.
So I'm just gonna stop right now, just for a second. Deep Sykes, thank you, appreciate it. For those that, if anyone donates during the stream, I'll try and acknowledge it, but because it's an interview format, and where'd he go? Steve, where'd you go, Steve? There's Steve.
I'm here.
There he is. So since it is an interview format, I'm gonna try to avoid interruptions, just to keep the flow going. So I'll try and get to you, but if I miss it, I'm sorry. So
yeah, and I have no problems. I'm seeing them as well. I can pause. I should have realized that. So I really got into modifying the printer because that's fun.
That's what you do.
Maybe I can bring up here after we're a little further in my chat here. I'll bring up my Thingiverse page, And I'll be interesting to see if anybody can any of the viewers can make a connection between some of my designs, because I've been in a few different communities, and maybe you didn't realize that was me, and I'm curious where that might be.
I can't remember if I still have my Thingiverse page. I think I deleted it.
Yeah,
when all that stuff came out about Thingiverse and whatnot, and
yeah, I haven't touched mine
site.
Since I started Voron. Really, I haven't touched it. So, but I had the bug. Everybody knows that the number of printers you need is n+1, right?
Yeah. One is none, 2 is 1, and 1 is none.
Yeah.
So
I had things that I wanted to print. I wanted to print multiple things. I wanted to be able to work on a printer and still be able to print parts. So when Prusa announced their Mark III, I was in. Few days, I didn't realize how big of a deal getting early on the pre-orders was, but a few days in, I pulled the trigger on the pre-order for the Prusa Mark III.
Did the price go up on them, or was it just the time for getting it?
Yeah, well, they first announced it, so they did a pre-order. Yeah. This is when the Prusa Mark III in the fall of 2017 was announced, and they did a pre-order with expected delivery sometime in December, I think is what they were expecting. So this was October, and they were going to deliver in December, and they delivered a few printers before Christmas, I remember. But all the innovations around that printer, the flex textured flex sheet was new, right? I don't know if they were necessarily the very first, but they kind of were the ones to bring it
to market. They were the first to make it a thing.
And that powder coated texture sheet just sounded like the coolest thing ever. And then as that pre-order went on, they said, okay, well, we're going to ship them, but you're going to have to get this later, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
hey, I remember seeing that.
I still have that Prusa. I still have the textured sheet.
Yeah, because that's the Prusa back there, right?
Well, the orange Prusa there is actually my friend's Prusa that's having trouble that I'm going to work on and try to fix for him. Mine's down on the lower shelf.
I'm envious of how much space you have.
I'm in about 10 by 17.
Okay, so you got 6 feet on me in one direction, roughly.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I'd have more if I clean the room.
Then I got the bug and was looking around and discovered the Hypercube Evolution.
Yeah, and I almost did one of those.
I have a friend at work who I discovered, I met him, he became a friend because of this. Someone else had said, hey, this other guy is into 3D printing. And I went over there and said, hey, you're into 3D printing. I'm thinking about building this printer. He said, oh, I'm thinking about building that too. And so we went together and ordered a lot of stuff and worked on this. And I got, before I even started building this thing, I got the modification bug and went through and redesigned the whole gantry. And this is really where I kind of got solidified my my thoughts in supports and avoiding supports. So figuring out ways to design a part that's different and stronger than what the what was provided with the default files, and still do that in a support free way.
Does anyone actually have a stock Hypercube? Like, I don't think that's possible that anyone would ever build a stock.
What's the guy that designed it? Scott? I think he does.
I think he might have the only stock Hypercube, because that was the printer. I got the Monoprice Select Mini, and because I'm a mature adult, my wife got it for me for Christmas. It showed up 2 weeks before Christmas, and I immediately unboxed it and started playing with it. So, yeah, couldn't wait. So by Christmas, I'm on my phone looking at communities for bigger printers, because, you know, while 120 is fun on a V0, when that's all you have to work with, it ain't much. And that was early 2018, late 2017. So I was looking at the Hypercube Evo. I almost did a fuse box. It was a fuse box was I think the one I almost went for.
What's the fuse box?
It's another cube type printer. It uses 1515, I think, for the extrusions actually. But it was another Core, I think it was Core XY. I think it was. But it was one of those cube. There was a bunch of cube printers at that time that kind of all follow the same, you know, the Thingiverse printer, as I
Right.
kind of use that term. So
Yeah, that's apt, because I mean the Hypercube, the Hypercube evolution, any number of bed flingers out there,
yeah,
all those kind of Thingiverse derived designs. Nothing wrong with that. But what I'll return to that later. So we're working on, and at this point I'm not really gung ho about everything. I'm just kind of going at a really slow pace. I don't have anyone else around me that's kind of the motivating or bouncing ideas off of, aside from the Facebook groups, the Creality and the Hypercube Facebook groups and the Prusa. So there's long gaps here where I'm just kind of doing my thing, doing some design. And my friend who was building the Hypercube with me, he ended up actually building his with all of my designs, and it's still working. He's still using it. I never finished mine. So
I was gonna say I don't see one back there.
This is like spring of 2018 when I decided that I wanted to build this Hypercube, and we collected all the parts, and I spent the next year and a half designing parts for it and never actually finishing it. So, and I'll show you all my designs are still out there on Thingiverse. I'll bring up the page.
I might have seen a few of them because
This might be a good time to bring that up. Let me switch my thing over here.
Yeah, because there was a while there. There was a good 2 or 3 weeks where I was just diving through communities and like Reddit. You know, you find a 3D printing Reddit. You know, you search all top, all time. Show me what you got, and you just go down the list, and you're looking at everything.
Yeah, these are my designs. If we go all the way back, I mean, down to, I was talking about that Prusa wide spool holder or Creality too. Trying to just make something that would fit these wide SaneSmart cables was the whole point. At some point, I built a Folgertech FT5 for a friend and did some assembly aids for that. Some CR10 mods, the dual lead screw, this little stepper with a belt, linking them. At one point, I actually split this into 2 different steppers, so it was individually controlled.
Wait, the CR10 was single lead screw? The original one?
Yes, the original CR10 was. The CR10S introduced the dual. Yeah.
Okay.
a 300 build printer with a single lead screw. Yep. So one of my, I think, fairly popular mods are these Acro Mills little storage bin dividers. I worked on that really early. This was back in 2018.
I think that
spring of 2018.
I might have printed a few of those.
There's quite a few people that have. This is kind of an example, Hypercube evolution parts, where I kind of took a spin on it, and I felt I looked at this at a different angle, literally, and printed these in this direction to get what I was looking for. With these are normally printed flat, and they don't have a indexing feature to wrap around the extrusion. This is the idlers for a Hypercube evolution. So, kind of moving towards stuff of that, and this is really, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just mod overload, really. Yeah. This is my CR10 when I was done with it. Well, I wasn't even done with it. Oh, but it was fun though. I mean, it led me here.
Yeah. It's almost like you should always start with a kind of crappier printer just to kind of learn the basics of what you should be working on and what doesn't need to be worked on.
And then these are the core parts of my Hypercube mods. The gantry was basically all this, and I had relocated the steppers to the rear of the printer because by default they're at the front. I redesigned these XY joints to where they didn't need supports. That was big. I was really big into, let's see what can I do to get to not have to do supports.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of like a big thing when you're designing for 3D printing. There you can tell designs that weren't taking that into account and designs that, like, okay, how can we make this work but also be printable without supports? because like if you look at every Voron part, there's not a single Voron part that requires additional supports. There's very few. Do we even still have parts that have built-in support? I can't remember if we got.
There's some aids, but there's nothing significant. Nothing significant.
And there's a lot of printed parts on a Voron or an Enraged Rabbit character or anything else that kind of follows the mantra. And then you have other things where you have to like go crazy with the supports, because it's like you look at it and you're like, the heck is this?
Yeah, that's really drawn me and kept me here in Voron. That design philosophy or kind of aligns with what I like. So this is, I mean, I spent literally a year and a half working on a Hypercube and never finishing it, and for some reason I don't even remember why I started, or maybe it was some article somewhere where they were comparing different printers, and this is the very first I'd actually heard of Voron, is when I saw this, and I looked at it and I said, oh man, I want to build that. I saw those 80 tooth pulleys turning, and I'm like, I'm in. I had a reservation though. I did not like that it was Bowden. I wanted direct drive, and I decided, you know what? Everybody says this thing still prints great. I love the rest of this. I'm gonna build it anyway. So I'm a car guy. I attend the SEMA show through various means, different businesses and stuff over the years. So this year, it was 2019 when I discovered it, and I was looking at parts, and it was right around when the SEMA show happens, which is in the very beginning of November every year. And I was going to the SEMA show, and the very last second that morning, both friends that were going to go with me had to cancel.
Oh no.
So I went by myself and took my laptop, and that gave me the perfect opportunity, because I spent the evenings when I wasn't out on the strip having my meal and then coming back, I spent the evening on AliExpress searching for deals and putting my cart together and keeping a spreadsheet of every piece that I needed and placing orders.
Yeah, in the days before kits, back in the good old days.
Oh yeah.
Back when AliExpress had free shipping.
Oh, I had, some things were free shipping. I think I think when I totaled this thing up, I was still paying like some things, because I'm in California. I think AliExpress is charging sales tax. I think I was like $400 into shipping and sales tax on this build. But I
try to avoid looking at my Ali bills. I purchase everything one at a time, so I can't do math. So I don't know what the final price is a lot of the time.
Discovered Discord, started just kind of poking around. All my parts were on their way, and I have to tell you, I was so happy in middle of December, right around Christmas or whatever it was, when I saw Afterburner be announced.
Oh yes, so
Direct
you got
drive.
in
The thing.
Yeah, 2.2. So that had the front. For those that are, if anyone here is unfamiliar, up until this revision of the V2, it was Bowden. So we didn't have a direct feed tool head. It's Core XY. Core XY is fast. Why are you putting weight on the tool head? That was what everyone thought. And then somebody made a mod that had the BMG. They put a Bondtech BMG on the tool head, and it actually worked just fine. So yeah, that's how Afterburner started. It was actually a mod that somebody proved out that, hey, the theory works, and then we took the guts out of it and made a extruder, and now we have Afterburner, which is now Stealth Burner. But direct feed, which is what you wanted.
I was just going down memory lane a little bit, looking at my old Discord posts, and a lot of chatter in the Afterburner. I think at the time the Afterburner beta channel, and because I was printing it out and building it, and my first Voron was bootstrapped off of my CR10 until something happened with it and I was having trouble, and then I had two Prusas at the time. I had two Mark IIIs, and I set a lac table, not a lac enclosure, just a lac table. I set on top of them and then draped towels over the whole thing.
Ooh, fancy. I used a cardboard box in garbage bags. That's what I ended up using for when I printed my first Voron in ABS.
And you know, all Prusas, and I was a big Pet G fan at the time. They're all built from Prusa parts, and these printers literally got louder the longer I was printing, getting these parts. It produced beautiful parts. I still have many of those parts on my original V2. I haven't had to reprint them. They look great, but a round of parts would get done, and I'd go through and tighten every screw.
The creep. Yeah,
because they were creeping.
I did a video series on how to print ABS, and you know, you could print ABS on pretty much any printer. People think as long as you have an all metal hot end and a bed that can hit 100, you can print ABS. But so many comments I got on that video series was, I did this with my Prusa and my Prusa melted, because Pet G, it doesn't fail, but it gets a little loosey goosey once you get it warm out.
I was most worried because everything I'd heard was the power supply is probably the most sensitive component in there. And so, but I did it anyway. I figured, whatever. If I have to replace a power supply, at least I'll have a Voron at the end, right? So, so I'm still printing on my Prusas, and at some point I figured out what was going on with the CR10. I had this big, for the CR10 to enclose it, I had this big Pink Panther foam core enclosure that I had taped together and cut, and I made little platforms that snapped into the extrusion sides, so I could have the CR10 enclosed, and it would do a great job of printing ABS. Basically in the configuration that you saw in those pictures in the on Thingiverse. But so Afterburner came out, the beta, and I was really excited about it. And I was in the middle of building my 2.2 and building all the subcomponents. And I got to the point where the early Afterburner and the dual MGN9 setup.
Yep.
And I'm sitting here working at it at my desk, and I cannot for the life of me get this thing to run smooth. There's nothing I'm doing, no shimming, no nothing is getting it to run smooth. And I set it aside for like 3 months because I was a little frustrated there. And I kept coming back and forth, Discord, looking at things. I'd build other pieces, sub-assemblies. I think I never finished a 2.2, but I built every sub-assembly. I built the Z drive modules, I built the AB modules, I built the front idlers. I built all these pieces. I just never put them together on a frame.
Yeah.
And then 2.4 came out and was announced. And I looked at the differences, and the pivot block for the second MGN9 rail was the difference maker for me. Because I did a test assembly. I printed the parts, did a test assembly, the new version of the Afterburner, and hey, it runs smooth.
Yeah.
So
for those that are unfamiliar, a little bit of history. With the Bowden setup previously, we only ran an MGN9 because that's all you needed. But at the time, there was a quality of China rails, and their tolerances were suspect a lot. Especially, it's better now, but it used to be worse. So when we added the extra weight of having a direct feed tool head, we doubled up the rails. So now you have a rail in one way, rail the other. It should cancel out any sloppiness. The original beta, the mount was solid. And then we changed it so that there's an ever so slight pivot point now with the bottom rail. Yeah, it was the bottom rail. So that way, if you did have any alignment issues, it would just kind of absorb it instead of flex, or instead of binding, which is the issue you were running into. So, yeah. And now we just have a single MGN 12 because it's fine. less problems, because when you have a small group of people and nobody has a problem, dual MGN 9 is fine. But then once you have thousands of them out there, more people are likely to have problems. So if you have a twisted extrusion, a twisted rail, a lot more issues crop up. So when you have a single MGM 12, simpler.
So the 2.4 came out, and like most people, when the new release comes out, I'm thinking, do I need to upgrade? What can I use? I think there were certain things you could keep using, like the Z idlers you could use. They were compatible with the new Z drives, all these things and parts. And there was a new set of parts to order, so I went through and decided to rebuild. I want the latest, and plus it's an excuse to build more stuff.
Yep.
So, but going through the build, I found things that I thought needed to be corrected. So a few messages in the chats, a couple of direct messages are RCF, and I think the big one that we were working on that I was pestering RCF about was the Z idlers, and the location of the tension screw was too far in to where it was very hard to get to because the pulley's in the way, and that's moved out because of my feedback.
Yeah, here I'll for those that are curious. Where is mobile cam? There we go. Mobile cam. Boop, 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 boop. You can see.
Yeah, that guy.
That guy. So you can see the screw is it's there, and it used to be further in. It used to be more centered.
And I think it basically got to the point when I was chatting with RCF, I said, okay, well, I'm just going to run the 2.2 idlers because I don't like how hard it is to get to that screw. And it ended up getting changed, but
yeah.
So.
And that's pretty much kind of how you got on the team, right? Was you just
just kind of that interaction and testing things. I did a lot of the Afterburner assembly and just talking in Discord and being trying to be helpful, trying to give constructive feedback on what I was seeing and what was what I was suggesting or thinking about doing. When I built my 2.4, there were some modifications I did. I went out back in that fall when I was ordering all the parts for my 2.2. I was looking at like nozzle brush clearance and all this, and I went into the channels and asked, hey, what size should I build? Should I build this thing a little bigger to get enough room to reach everything? And I'm 90% sure it was Doc that said, yeah, build a little bigger. I built mine as a 320. And that's probably the worst advice I've ever gotten in sizing for a printer, because it's just in the Voron design aesthetic, and I brought this up on my stream earlier, build everything in 25 millimeter increments.
Yes.
Because
Tallboy is 330 by 330. Because when this guy was originally built, it was a V1.5, and it was a 300 by 300 by 400 V1.5, which when converted to a 2.4 is 330 by 330 by like 389 or something like that. It's weird.
So the hexes and the skirts are very, very easy to modify in a 25 millimeter increment. 330, 320, not so much.
Yep.
So one of my first, as I was building mine, my first mod was to create skirts for a 320 build, because I wasn't going to go for a serial. It wasn't complete until it was complete for me. So I wasn't going to get my serial with no skirts and no panels. It had to be complete. So, and then I didn't really like the idea of attaching the fans with VHB, although there are very real reasons to do that, vibration damping, and it's easy. Yep. So I designed the first iteration of the bolt, the fans that bolt on those alternate skirts that are now, some variation of that is now in the latest revision.
Yep, that's now stock.
And the other thing I did, I think everything I did was really centered around the skirts area. I did a filtered inlet power panel because I wanted to run a USB cable to the back, and at that time in 2.4, if you ran the filtered inlet, you didn't get keystone jacks. Is that right? You didn't have a spot for a keystone jack?
Yeah, I believe so.
Since I was already modifying the rear skirts, I just made a new version that had a keystone jack in it, so I could run a USB cable to the back, so I could easily plug in a webcam or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah. So instead of, if you ever had to unplug, you don't have to flip the printer over or whatever.
Exactly.
That's a good idea.
So, but this is the first. Around that time, I think there was that contest, the video contest that you guys did, that said, "Hey, Jason."
Hey, Jason. Cheers, man. Appreciate it.
there was a contest for new serials. There was 2 categories. There was one for new serial request. The best serial request got this package of prizes, and the best other video. So I had my target on just creating a good serial request, just kind of going over the whole printer. So I got it all built, got my video up there, ended up getting the prize for the new serial request for that. So I was pretty pleased with that. The other one, I'm drawing a blank on who it was. The Voron Life video is absolutely amazing.
That was a very good video. I can't remember who did it, but that was a very good one.
I know, I'm drawing a blank. It just came up the other day. Someone said the name, but I can't remember. So
yeah, whoever, I can't remember who it was that made the video, but everyone on the team was like, very good.
This was a big point for me because I finished the printer. It's completely finished. There's nothing left to do. It's a project that's finished. And after coming from a year and a half or more of development on the Hypercube and never ever finishing or feeling like the CR10 was finished, to have a finished printer that worked as well as the Voron was cool. And in the middle of all this, of course, V0 was announced at the same time as 2.4, right?
Yeah, so 2.4, 1.8, and V0, were all at the same time. Because the original plan was that at Murph 2020, we were going to announce the updates for 2.4 and 1.8, and then also, hey, look at the V0. So we were going to premiere the V0 for sure. I can't remember the other two, but COVID, and yeah. So we ended up just doing it all on one stream.
Well, of course, I couldn't live without a V0, so I had ordered all the parts for that.
Mad Cat was the video. So if you go on Google or YouTube, type Voron Life Mad Cat, I think that's the video that comes up. So.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. So anyway, where are we at? I ordered all my parts for V0. I was getting kind of more involved in, I had got some attention, some exposure by that video, and that's probably putting us into, I think I got my serial in May of 2020. The printer was ready. It was assembled for me to get probably about 70 serial numbers ahead of where I got. It took me a long time to get around to actually making the video and getting it posted.
Yeah.
But
now that's like 2 days.
So lots of interactions, and there within the next month or so, RCF started the Switchwire project, and I'd been chatting with him and stuff, and he brought me in, and he's doing this development and kind of brings me in as a special access to the Switchwire development channel. I wasn't a member of the crew at the time. I think I had the helping role. I had the green helping role, and so going in there and just watching the process was just. It was fun. I had one of my Prusa Mark IIIs. I decided then that I'm ready. Let's do this. What parts do I order? What do I take apart on this? And so my part of that was to figure out, because it was it's based around the Mark 52 Prusa bed, was what parts of a Prusa can someone use for this? So I took that and just used everything I could. Steppers, bed, display. The reason there's a 2004 display housing out there is because I was using that from my Prusa, and starting to get my feet wet on like some of the things. Had some suggestions on parts and design. I mean, RCF did Switchwire, but there's little pieces. There's little pieces like. We were having some trouble or some thought on how do you attach the key back, and I jumped into Fusion, played around, and made the little holder that bolts to the Z, and RCF liked it and integrated that, and that was kind of cool to have one of my parts in the
it's official thing. Now. Yeah, Switchwire was like 2 months total of dev work, and a complete restart
it was so
about
quick.
a month in. because he designed it. For those that don't know, the Switchwire is called the Switchwire because originally it was capstan. It was wire drive. And if you go on YouTube and search like capstan drive printer or Core XZ printer, there is a like some kid made one as in like college or whatever. There's a video of it on YouTube. The video's from like 8 years ago. We actually messaged that guy to figure out. I messaged that guy to figure out what he was using to actually hold the wire on the stepper motors. And he did reply and he said, "Don't do it. Don't bother. It's a horrible idea." And RCF got a version of the Switchwire running with wire drive, and it functioned, but wire drive is inherently flawed because as you wind up the wire, the OD of the spool changes and the movement never is quite repeatable, and it's belts are easier. So like a month in development of a 2-month development, he started over and made it belted.
Well, in a big part, because part of the core thing with Voron is available parts. Nothing you have to nothing special, and the pulleys that you need, you can't print those. They need to be made out of metal, and we tried very hard to find a commercial source.
We found one commercial source out of a website that looked like it was like GeoCities, and I'm pretty sure it was American only. So that does not fly with the whole Voron design ethos. Is everything on the printer you should be able to buy anywhere in the world. Nothing custom. So
I'm pretty sure I don't remember the time frame exactly, but sometime here in Switchwire development, I got a surprise billion pings on Discord.
Those are
because you don't get told. Usually, you don't get told when this happens.
Yeah.
And it was me and Ray.
Yep.
We're invited to the crew.
Yep.
And that was exciting. But it was just like suddenly the Discord blows up and
So for those wondering how you get on the Voron team, there's no process. It's just be a member of the community, make cool shit, and if you'll get noticed at some point, and then you'll wake up to a million pings and notifications, and years of chat logs to go over, and bust out your credit card when that happens too, because you see all the cool stuff that's being worked on, and you're like, oh great, now I need to buy all this stuff now, and by the time it shows up, it's outdated and goes right in the bin. Dev life.
Yep. Well, I mean, when I came in and even before being in the crew and going into the Switchwire thing, just so many people warning me that this is dev, and I said that's okay. I've been doing this. I sunk how much money into my Hypercube? Whatever. We got this.
That was coming right off of the V0 dev. The V0 dev was oh god, almost like a year and a half. And like I had to do 3 separate Masumi orders for extrusions because the number of extrusions on that printer changed like 4 times. Yeah. Because it's like, oh, the first revision's 4 extrusions. Okay, I'll order 4. Actually, it's 8. Okay, I'll order 4 more. Actually, it's 16. Oh god. I'm going to store these next to the 6mm rods and linear bearings. Oh, we're not using rods and bearings anymore. Dev life.
Yep. MGN7's for the win. Everything good?
Yeah, apparently my camera's being buggy.
Oh, okay.
You can keep talking. I'm just going to reboot it.
Yeah. So, I mean, just kind of kept going through with the Switchwire release, and being part of the Voron Live for that was exciting. Being part of the crew at that point and having some hand. So I did a lot of like CAD cleanup, kind of I tend to like you, I've played WoW in the past, and I never minded the grind type stuff, you know, so going through the CAD and going through each and every component and making sure that each thing is named right and is in the right spot, and every counting fasteners. I think I actually put the fasteners into the Switchwire CAD model.
Oh god, that is masochistic. I don't think I've ever modeled anything with a screw. I just kind of go, I'm going to put a screw there, whatever length I need. I'll figure that out when I actually have the part in hand.
It's one of those things where even now I like doing it. It's one of those that I need to just kind of drop into it and just do it. So I can find myself absorbed in the CAD for hours once I get it started. But getting it started can sometimes be a challenge. So like with both Trident and 2.4 R2, I've poured over the CAD for hours trying to make sure that each component is in there in the right spot and the right name and is reorganized. So trying as much as possible to make things make sense.
Yep.
So
so
yeah.
So after Switchwire, that was your first big solo thing, was Trident, right? Or was that mostly solo, or how what was he? Yeah.
So Switchwire was released, I think, in July or August of 2020.
Yep.
And then at some point in Switchwire development, RCF said, you got a bunch of LMU 8s and rods, keep them. We got a project coming up.
That's right. Legacy.
I got pulled into Legacy and built a Legacy. But there was very little.
I don't have a Legacy. That's the only Voron I don't have.
Yeah, there was a couple of feedback things on that, but mostly it was just building it and proving the design worked. So not a whole lot to cover on Legacy. It works. It was so part of Legacy was M4. That was
Yep.
a big part of that, is introducing M4 and building those. So I built a couple of those. The early pictures on the website were the ones I had built that I think RCF recolored from orange, because I was using Prusa orange to red.
Was it Prusa ASA at least?
It was.
Okay.
Of course.
That's okay. Okay.
Of course. At this
Make it
point,
sure.
by this point, I have a lot of Pet G. It never gets touched.
I know, same here. I think I have like 2 or 3. I still have the spool of PETG that I used to print my V1.5. I still have the remainder of that spool somewhere.
I use Pet G on stuff like this now, trying to get rid of it. The little dino bag clip.
Is that it? No. I gotta find it. I still have the spool somewhere.
But I was done building printers, so it was time to build more printers.
Yeah.
So I decided that I had room for another V2, and so I sourced all the parts for my green V2, and I had bought a Duet Wi-Fi for the Hypercube that I never used. So I decided, okay, I'm at least most of the way there since I have a controller. I might as well buy the rest of the parts, right?
Yeah.
That's the
leftover,
mantra, right?
Yeah, the leftover screw from one build is the first screw for the next build.
Exactly. So I built that. In the middle of that, I decided, you know what? I've got all these printers. The only thing I'm missing is a V1. So I spent a couple of messages to Eddie and said, hey, what's going on with V1.9? I want to help. Or what's going on? We knew it was going to be three stepper bed leveling.
Yeah, because of plane.
Right. But the holdup has always been that it had to be symmetrical. You couldn't have 2 steppers on one side and one on the other. Right. Yeah. And how to get from point A to point B with that being a core design requirement. So we did a lot of a little back and forth, and I started playing around with concepts and working with Eddie. And at a certain point, it just got to where I'd done a lot of design, and Eddie said, you know what, you're doing a good job with this. It's not something that I can dedicate any time to with it. Why don't you keep going with it and see where this goes? Eddie was super supportive. One of the nicest guys on the team as far as showing support for projects and ideas and stuff. So
yeah, so for those that don't know, Eddie, RCF did V1.6, which actually wasn't around for that long. I don't think a lot of people built a V1.6 because it was V1.8 and then he handed it off to you. So V1.8 is what I have down there. I don't have V1.9. Right. Never existed.
Yeah. The name of mine though is still V1, the host name, because I never changed it after we decided to change the name.
Yes.
Just a
You
really
get-
quick, the chat message from Mad Shammy. I do have a Marlin derivative in the Prusa. The Prusa still runs the factory firmware on it.
Yeah, I have some commercial machines in the other room. The FL Sun Super Racer, Mingda, those still run Marlin. None of my self-built machines run Marlin. They all run Klipper. So
yeah, I at one point, just wanting to experience everything, I had the idea that I wanted a Marlin printer, a rep firmware printer, and a Klipper printer. And I decided that was way too much work.
yeah,
Now I
Klipper,
have.
once you get used to the Klipper workflow, it's kind of like I tried. I can't remember when it was. It was a while ago. It might have been with the Bonsai. At one point, I did try to go and run Marlin on it, and then when it came to like creating a config and flashing it, I just like looked at all the process. I'm like, okay, where's that Raspberry Pi Zero? Okay, we're done. I was like, yeah, compiling. I got to download this and compile, and I was getting errors, and I'm like, whatever.
I wasn't sold on Klipper when I first experienced it. Back when I had the CR10, I loaded Klipper on it. I don't even remember what version it was or at what point it was. I think it had just come out on someone's, maybe Chris Riley or someone had done a video on it, and I followed along their steps and had some trouble and ended up switching back to Marlin for a while.
Yeah.
But
There was, for a while there, Klipper was pretty, I wouldn't say rough, but it was yeah, it wasn't what it's like now.
I had Klipper and my setup. I was using a BL Touch on the CR10, so getting that working in an early version of Klipper. And the concept of grabbing these snippets of code and just that you just add them to a config file. Yeah. What the hell?
Now it's second nature. It's like, okay, I just want to add this, copy paste, done.
Now it's like you have to compile it every time you want to make a change. What the hell?
Yep.
So, but yeah, I mean, just Trident that's just coming on a year now, right? Well, I started Trident a little over a year ago. Yeah. Before it was called Trident. And
because numbers are confusing to people, because 1.9 comes out, but 2.4 is the oldest printer, and it's like, what? So it's got a name.
Around the Marches timeframe last year is when Trident was really, or the 3 lead screw V1.9 was really close to baked. It was baked about 4 months before we released it, and obviously lots of tiny iterations happened because we had all the time to do it. But that once it got baked is when we really started talking about the name of it. I mean, theoretically, it wasn't practical, but it could have been released alongside V0.1. It was done enough, but it wasn't practical to do that with all the other things, a manual and a sourcing guide and all that kind of stuff that goes into a release. All of that took the entire next 3 months to do. Because everybody has their own schedules, and this is still a volunteer project. So
that's one of the things. It's just throwing out a folder of STLs and saying have at her is a lot different than here's a whole build guide, sourcing guide, entire BOM and everything, and it's been tested, and it's a different beast, and it takes time. That's why pretty much every Voron that's released has been functional for many months before it's pushed live. So hopefully by then all like the early bugs are worked out too. Like even 2.4 R2, which just came out, had files STLs that were modified how close to release? Like a couple days, I remember.
Yeah. Everything has something that gets missed. And that's okay. I mean, we are a hobbyist-led group, and everybody who checks these check it at their own time. And just by nature, as something is about to be released, is when everybody wants to get in there and check it.
Yeah. Oh. We'll deal with it later. Okay, we got to deal with it today.
I don't remember. I don't think I had too much more printing and building support for V0.1. A little bit. I did go in and clean up, reorganize the V0.1 CAD. So that was another. That's kind of a trend, is going in and trying to clean up and make sense of the CAD, especially coming from Nemgria doing the V0.1 development in SolidWorks and looking at what that looks like in Fusion 360. And I built one. I built the red 0.1 that was shown in the release, the Voron Live release. That moved and was print ready about 20 minutes before we went live.
If it works, it works.
Mm-hmm. That was one of those that was definitely, I mean, everything's baked for a good time, and then suddenly the very last second, things coming up, and like this piece, I mean, it was fun.
Just duct tape. Are you the person in the GIF there putting the blue tape over the wiring to hide it all, make it look good?
No. That's not me. That's not possible. I couldn't let it get to that point. It's nope.
I'm looking at those plugs on the side of your desk there, and
what plugs?
I'm high.
Oh, here?
Yeah. Well, what's that cable management there? Hey, what's
that's that. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
It's not as bad as it looks.
See, you got to do what I do and just hide it under the desk and behind printers, so now nobody sees the mess. Because
this is all new.
Everything's clean within here, but you go here and garbage. It's all about framing.
Yes, that's all kind of. It's somewhat cleaned up from what it was. It's all streaming wiring.
Yeah.
this is
oh my
whole
god,
streaming setup right here.
Yeah. So that you stream too. So many wires. You got wires for the camera, wire for the camera charger. You got wires for HDMI. It's a rat's nest. It's a rat's nest streaming setups. Oh my god.
Yeah. So it seems to be going okay now, though. I've gotten past some of the early bugs. But
yeah, I need to go over my setup again and give it a once over. So yeah, so Trident. So
we released Trident, and I was super nervous. This is the most nervous I've been in a long time about anything releasing, because this was something. I mean, I tend to be the type that comes in and refines things rather than coming up with new. And like the skirts for Trident was such a. I kind of was playing around with it, and suddenly someone in the dev team says, "Hey, that looks really good," but it's not like my comfort zone, that kind of stuff. And the looks, I poured over the Z modules on the Trident for so long before I had them to some point where I was somewhat happy with them.
Yeah.
So going into release and seeing what the world's going to think about this, especially considering the biggest anxiety I had was around it not being a true like rat rig style kinematic bed mounting, and understanding the reasons it's not there as far as the upgradability and parts availability and ease of assembly, and that the idea that there's nothing out there that actually takes advantage of a dancing bed. But then wondering what the builders are going to think of that, and I think that it's proven out over time that it's definitely a point of concern for some people, but the reality is that it works very well, and it's a printer that is on par with Voron 2 in terms of its capabilities and quality. So
yeah, because the gantry from the Trident is now pretty much the gantry in the 2.4 R2. The only real difference between the two machines now is the Z motion. Either gantry moves or bed moves. Pick one.
Yep. What is it? Bed movie, bed, or bed movie?
Yeah, we had like a bed movie and a bed stay, or bed movie, gantry movie, or something like that. We had differentiate. But yeah, the Trident kinematic mount is that's one of the differences with the Trident kinematic bed compared to other kinematic beds on other printers like the Rat Rig and whatnot, where it's printed parts and off-the-shelf bearings. There's no custom metal brackets. There's no having to rely on a single supplier for parts. It's, yeah, sure, you probably can't do, you know, crazy 2 inches of deviation, but your printer should never get to that point. Like, you, at most, you're modifying. Like, every time I run the QGL on here, or QGL, every time I run the tram on this, I look at the numbers, and I'm taking out 0.002 millimeters of play here and there. Like,
the big difference is that there's a bed frame, and the bed isn't directly mounted to these points. So that's a big consideration that makes it okay to do what we've done.
Yeah, that's how we get away with it, is there is an actual carriage that the bed is mounted to versus the bed itself mounted to the hard points, which I don't think you'd be able to do something like that with off-the-shelf parts. At least not easily. So yeah. So
right before the Trident release, I dipped my toes in the streaming thing. As far as I didn't want to necessarily stream on YouTube. When I first got a little further into the 3D printing stuff, one of my friends said, you should start a YouTube channel. And I'm like, no, that doesn't interest me. I don't think I have the persona, the personality to be successful in a YouTube channel. So, but what I did want to do, because especially with COVID, I mean, for many of us, 3D printing is at least enhanced by COVID. What else are you going to do? Put a little more time and energy into your hobbies, right? And although I have a lot of interaction through work, because I do go to work into the office most days, getting that interaction on a not work level, I tried building in Discord. So I built a LDO V0.1 kit, streamed in Discord, and I had a lot of fun doing that. So I decided once Trident was released and I was going to build another one of these, that I would try to do the same thing. And late August, I started in Discord and quickly realized that Discord only allows 25 people in a chat that has video streaming.
Yeah, you can have quite a few in audio, but if you're doing video,
And the other thing is, although I really wanted to be able to talk to people for rewatching and for the audience's benefit, it doesn't work to have other people talking, because they're having their own conversations, and now I'm feeling like I have to interrupt them in order to say the thing that I want to describe that I'm doing building. So I transitioned over to, because the thought was I was going to do it in Discord and then upload it to YouTube for later watching, and that quickly, within the first couple of streams, transitioned to just doing a traditional live stream on YouTube. And although I didn't think I was going to like it, it's worked out really well.
It's fun. It's fun. Like, I'm sure you've seen some. My older streams are sketchy, but it's coming up on now 2 years of doing this, and you know, I look forward to going live now. It's that interaction is fun. Like, every time I come down here and I'm working on something and I'm not live, I'm constantly looking at the camera and I'm like, wait a minute, there's nobody there. Like, I'm used to it. So
being able to, and especially you do a great job at this, and I try to do a good job of this, really paying attention to chat and allowing the content to be interrupted, because interacting with the viewers is more important, really.
That is one of the things, and you've nailed it. I try to catch your streams, but we kind of stream at times where it's you're earlier in the day for you, but that's like during my midday when I'm usually out or something. So so I try to catch them when I can, but comparing, like, it's a skill. You have to learn how to interact with chat, because you've seen it where you watch somebody building a printer and there's 20 people in chat and they're just sitting there, head down, no music, and they're just building a printer, and which some people like, but it's not. You have to balance the entertainment aspect and the interaction aspect with the educational of, hey, we're building a printer, let's go over it. So
And
Yeah.
for me, the whole reason I'm doing this is for the social interaction. And if I'm not, if I don't have a community around and some people to interact even beyond the stream, I get lots of Discord chats and we continue these chats and I try to help or answer questions or whatever. But
Yeah.
if it wasn't for, if it was just me sitting there building a printer, I wouldn't do it. I don't think it would be
Yeah.
sustainable for me. It's all about the viewer interaction.
Every time I sit there and plan to build a printer as a video, I just end up live streaming it because
Yeah.
I can't imagine sitting here just building it, constantly adjusting the camera, recording hours of footage, and then having to edit. I'm like, no, I'd rather just go live and shoot the shit with people and have music playing and build a printer.
I'm just so grateful that my audience at least tolerates my scatterbrained approach. I just kind of go with, I get interrupted constantly, and that's just who I am and how it's going to be. And so far it seems to be working okay.
Yeah, no, you're doing good, man. You're doing good. It's working. It's fun. Q, he's West Coast, so I'm in East Coast time zone. He's West Coast time zone, North America. So there's actually so right now, what time is it there right now where you are?
6:15.
Yeah, so for me it's like 9:15. So yeah.
So yeah, we got the Trident released, and I took a little bit of time to figure out all the streaming stuff and get set up. I bought a GoPro. That's what I was streaming on first, and that's quickly escalated to the setup I have now. But starting, I think it was September, I started thinking about, okay, we need to port all these changes over to V2.
Yep.
And started working on that. Most of R2 was fleshed out by the end of October.
Yep.
And pieces, the parts I was installing on my green V2 and my stream today, some of those were printed back in October, and have just been waiting for the R2 release so I could fix that fraying belt on the thing. But yep, just going into that, continuing to have fun with the stream and kind of settle in and try to continue to improve, get past some of the technical difficulties that we all have on the stream stuff, and working towards just kind of working on everybody's pace and schedule, because even though I did I was directing the R2 changes and release, it's still a team effort. There's many people that are involved, from people to review it, Dunnar doing the manual, and the latest manual being the best one yet, and getting very positive feedback from people.
That's the biggest thing. Like 2.4 R2, that was the 2.4 manual was the oldest one, and it showed like when 2.4 came out, the team, like when you joined the team, you had to pretty much do a whole bunch of CAD work and whatnot. When I joined the team, it was I built the printer and I was kind of a cool dude in the chat, and I got invited to the team because it was that much smaller of a team. Like there was no team, it was just Voron owners, and that became the team because that's just how the community grew. So luckily I didn't have to prove my CAD skills at the time, which still don't exist. So yeah. Joys of being an early adopter, I guess. But yeah, updating that manual, that's the big thing, and a lot of people are liking that new manual, and all the little tweaks to 2.4 R2, because it doesn't look like it at first, but pretty much every part, except I think the Z-idlers, were fiddled with or adjusted or tweaked.
Very many of them. I ended up making a spreadsheet that's pinned in the V2 channel, just to give people an idea of what level. It's a very basic. It's either a functional change, a printability change, or no change. So I wouldn't bother with any printability changes, and then you get to make your own decision on whether the functional change is worth it.
Yeah, because like for example, like parts that may not look like they were tweaked, we went from having tapered screw holes for the caps, like the socket head screws. So instead of having a taper, we use the same method Prusa does with like the crosshatch for bridges. So so that pretty much any hole that used to be tapered now has that. So yeah, I think
90% of them. 90% of them. I did leave a few, and the ones I left were with heat set inserts go into.
Yeah.
And that was to allow a little bit of plastic, space for plastic to melt too. So, and it really didn't matter.
Yeah.
So
for 2.4 R2, pretty much, I think the only thing because Stealth Burner is not part of 2.4 R2, so
correct.
that was pretty much all your CAD work. So the two most recent releases are pretty much you.
Well,
RCF's off in other project land.
But even so, RCF comes in and
oh yeah,
the mechanism for the display on Trident and now on 2.4 R2 is
so
RCF's
nice.
design. It is so much better. That, like I explained in the Trident release, that was the biggest pain point left over for me, and he solved it. And I went through and made some tweaks, but the basic thing that's a lot of, he came in with this awesome design, and then I just polished it into the release, basically.
Yeah. Cheers, Derek. Yeah, so my 2.4 used to have, I have a touchscreen on it now, but I had that old style Mini 12864. Now that I got the new one on the Trident here, oh, it's so good.
So much better.
He RCF, that's the thing. He's really good at coming out with really creative solutions for things. Like that's
clever.
That's his thing.
Yeah. The stuff it's kind of, I feel a lot of us might, but I feel a little imposter syndrome just looking at the stuff that I work on, and then RCF or Wiley or I mean really any of the members will have these things that I'll look at and just say, wow, that's brilliant. I wouldn't have thought of that.
And here I am working on electronic mounts for a rat rig right now, so
well, everybody
gotta learn somewhere.
You're building your skills. So I tend to be an overthinker on some things. So the one clever thing, or one of the clever things I'm pretty proud of, is the way that the accent in that display attaches, using heat sets to hold it in.
Yeah. Which I accidentally pushed through and almost burned my hand the first time doing that.
Oops.
Yeah. I didn't realize that they were held in by the heat set. So as I'm pushing it, the whole thing pops out into my hand. I'm like, oh, that ain't good.
Coming up, next thing will be Trident R1. I see in chat R2, but there hasn't been a revision to Trident yet. So it'll be Trident R1, and it's going to be super minor. It's going to be doing all those cross bridge holes. And that's nearly it.
Yeah,
just kind of cleaning all that up. There's going to be...
Yeah. No, finish.
There's going to be a slight tweak to the bed mounts that's going to give us... somewhere in Trident development, I lost 3 millimeters of Z travel. I'm going to say Z just for you.
Yeah. Proper.
And I think that happened when I added the accents, the color accents to those modules. Depending on your configuration, you can still get a full 250 millimeters of you can still get a full 250 millimeters of travel depending on your bed standoffs and bed thickness and stuff. But there's an extra 3 millimeters to be had there.
Yep.
So that'll be included. It's a super easy.
Yeah, so for those curious, the name doesn't change. It's still Trident. It's still 2.4. The R2 is just kind of like a patch. It's not 2.4 R2. It's a 2.4.
Yeah.
So I've seen people keep calling it. Yeah. Just so you know. I'm
gonna do a little plug for my today's stream. I see some people asking what's a cross bridge, and very early in my stream, I cover and show in Prusa Slicer what that looks like. So,
I have the CAD for 2.4 up on my computer here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to see a cross bridge, hide. So you can see in here how you got this like hatch pattern. So when it goes to slice it, it makes bridges instead of trying to print a circle in the air. It bridges across, and then it bridges across, and then it does the circle. So if you said you have it on a slicer, or
in my stream, I showed what it looks like in Prusa Slicer as you work through the layers and how it builds. I went into just a little bit more depth, and it's very early in the stream. It won't be hard to find. So it's not
go
something.
Subscribe. Go subscribe to Steve Builds. Link in the description. Do this now. And then like the smash button, hit the bell.
Well, all the stuff.
I don't know. Hearts, whatever the TikTok. I don't know. Social media engagement. Go!
Yeah, none of the changes. So the only changes that might be worth reprinting, or I wouldn't even say holding off on, the new front idlers, the tensioners in line with the pulleys will be included. But that's pretty much the only functional change besides the bed mounts, and that's 3 little parts that give that extra 3 millimeters of travel. It's a very quick print and a very easy change. One of the really nice things I like about Trident is how easy it is to work on. You can take that bed out with disconnecting a few wires and 3 bolts. The bed comes out.
There's really not much to it. It was a very simple build.
That's really the differentiator between the 2.4 and the Trident. It is a significantly easier belt, not having to worry about easier build, not having to worry about the belts.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where we're at. I mean, it's nothing like an hour and a half of.
Yeah, we've caught up. We've caught up to now. The recap is over.
I can't believe I've talked for an hour and a half. That's nuts.
Yeah, see, I don't even have a timer right now because somebody commented that there's no lag between our streams. I'm going to break the magic window here. We're just on a Discord call. So his screen, this is actually my main screen, my monitor. So he's actually just on my desktop, fully maximized, and it's just
working
OBS.
well.
Just in OBS. So we're fully in sync because we're just on a Discord call right now, and you're hearing my desktop audio. So movie magic.
Going forward, I mean, Trident, the minor release is going to happen, and Murph.
Yes, Murph.
I mean,
are you going?
You've got ticket to Murph? I bought a plane ticket.
Party on.
I have a hotel booked.
What hotel?
So,
actually, I don't know if we same one.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Same one.
Party on. It's Goshen. I think it's like one street anyway, so all the hotels are pretty close.
The only thing I need to do is rent a car because I'm flying into Chicago.
Into Chicago. I when is Murph and where? Murph is the last weekend of June in Goshen, Indiana. Murph is pretty much like the big 3D printer convention for hobbies.
Yeah, and it's amazing that it's so grassroots and it's one of the biggest ones. You know.
Someone ping Nero. Why are you trying to ping me, Steve? What's that? ZZZ. I don't know. Someone's saying ping me. Hi, I'm here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Murph. It's if you go watch any of the big 3D printer YouTubers, usually when Murph goes on, they all go. So Goshen? Yeah. Oh, it's Goshen. Like the ocean? Goshen. Okay, it's Goshen. Indiana. Cool.
What did you say? Goshen?
I think I said Goshen. Goshen. Well, it's Gosh. Gosh. It's Gosh. Like, oh my gosh. It's Goshen. Goshen? Goshen. Oh.
Yeah, so it's like looking about it. I was just gonna say it's looking about a 2-hour drive from Chicago to Goshen.
Yeah. I'm lucky. I'm like 4-hour drive, but there's an international border in the way. So as long as the Rona doesn't come back or spike again, I should be good. So
yeah, I pulled the trigger because I figure if it does, worst case is I cancel the hotel and I defer the flight to Earth.
Yeah, Earth's gonna be a little bit trickier because that's like a full day's drive for me, or flying. And then if I fly, then I gotta get We'll see how big of a YouTuber I am if I can justify that business expense. So Murph, I do want to
anyway. So
yeah.
Doesn't really matter, but Murph I've wanted to go, and obviously with Rona not being able to justify 2020 it.
Murph 2020 was going to be, I think we had 2 or 3 booths. The Voron team had like 2 or 3 booths, and like 15 or 20 of us were going to go. It was going to be a whole thing, and then global pandemic once in a lifetime, and then global economic crash, and now now we got World War III going on. It's 3D printers.
I don't I'd like to find some way to get a printer there, but I don't think it's practical.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to bring any of mine just because I'm going to be doing other stuff, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of Vorons there. Yeah. This one might go to Rapid TCT in Detroit, though. We'll see.
Okay.
Jason
Which one?
wants me to... Rapid TCT Detroit.
No, but which printer?
This one. Which...
Oh, okay. Okay. It was off screen.
Yeah, here, let me... This one.
Got it.
The one to your left. Or right. Stage left.
Yeah.
That one. Because that's an LDO, and Jason wants me to bring it. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I really hope for a West Coast type event as well. I saw some chatter in chat.
Is there a West? Yeah, I was gonna say. I could have sworn there was.
Nothing.
No?
There's nothing. I've got a Switchwire to give away when we do have one.
Ooh, yeah. I'm pretty sure. I think there's big maker fairs though. If going off of YouTubers that I know in that area, I think there's big maker fairs, but there's no Rep Rap Fest.
I hear the Bay Area Maker Fair is just a little too much now.
Okay.
Oh, it's not so much hobbyist.
Yeah. So that's that's kind of a topic I want to touch on because I think we're done the interview part. So now we're gonna shoot the shit. Rep Rap, the whole self-replicating movement. Do you think it's dead? And do you think like printers like this, where these Vorons and all the other, Railcores, Rat Rigs, all those other printers, they're not meant to be self-replicating. They're not like, 'cause that was the whole thing with Rep Rap. A Rep Rap printer was a printer that the whole goal was to try and make the printer make completely itself, right? Self-replication. Yeah. And nowadays we're fully reliant on linear rails, gears, lead screws, belts, like all these just normal off-the-shelf component. What they used to call, pills or vitamins? They used to call them vitamins. And they're always trying to get rid... The whole thing with Rep Rap was getting rid of vitamins and trying to make it self-replicating. And now we've completely abandoned that. So are these Rep Raps?
I think
or are they just like DIY 3D printers? Like, should we stop calling these Rep Raps?
I'm new enough to the hobby, coming in at 2017, which is quite a few years into it. I mean, we're really, when I came in was when Creality and that really started this big boom into the extra affordable 3D printers, right? So Rep Rap has never really been in my, like, I didn't even know what that meant when I was into this. It's at its face value, Rep Rap, we're probably not there, but we are at a point where so much, how do you do this, or how do you accomplish this thing that the big boys do at the hobbyist level, that kind of stuff. The IRCFA, that stuff, that the innovation in all these little capabilities is where we're at. Like, how can you design something? I mean, it'd be interesting if there's another, like, core something, not core, and I don't mean that as far as core XY, but just kind of the basic, if there was something new out there, it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's just because, you go back and you look at, like, the definition of Rep Rap, and yes, using off-the-shelf parts is allowed, but we've kind of moved from, like, we're built, like, these printers are much more advanced than any, the Rep Raps back then. And we're pretty much designing custom machines that are well beyond that scale. And is it still a Rep Rap? Is it just, a DIY 3D printer? Or does it still should be called a Rep Rap? I don't know. Everyone say hi, David. Everyone say hi, David.
Hi, David.
Oh, is open source dying? You know what? It's moving towards that, because you're either, I think... So that's a good question here. We'll chat about this. Is open source. So right now, if you asked questions earlier in the stream, ask them again, because this is like
no way to go back.
Yeah, I can't go back. So we're just gonna kind of shoot the shit for a bit, basically. So is open source dead? Yes and no. My opinion, companies are gonna drop it. You're already seeing that with E3D. You've seen that with Slice. You've seen that even Prusa now is moving away from open source, because what do you gain from going open source? You get some brownie points from some people who, oh, yay, you made open source. But you're not going to make any money off that because China's going to clone it easier. They're going to clone it anyways, but they're going to clone it quicker. They're going to clone it easier. They're going to be able to do it without you being able to stop them. So you don't gain anything other than getting, brownie points on the internet for having an open source design. But on the flip side, you got something like Voron, which is 100% open source because, one, we're not a company. We're the worst company in the world. We give everything away for free. We don't make anything off of it. So, yes and no, open source is dead. I don't know. What's your take on that?
I think the widgets, the little things, the hot end, that kind of stuff is going to be, like you said, less and less. People are wanting to protect their designs. But hopefully open source is in the way that we view it and just wanting to further the fun that we have with the hobby continues. So I don't know.
Open source is only viable in code or community. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, open source is dead, but not dead. It's the nature of, E3D. Here's the V6. Here's everything you need to know to make a V6. And what do you have? You have Triangle Lab V6s that are pretty much as good as a normal V6, an E3D V6. And what did E3D gain by being open source in that regard, other than clones that are almost as good? So, yes, it sounds very good in the community, but like something like Klipper, right? Klipper is an open source firmware, or Voron, an open source printer, where anyone, as long as your goal isn't to make money, but if you are trying to make money off your product, going open source isn't an advantage. You're gonna get hurt, or at least you're gonna get a ding in profits, which that's how companies stay alive nowadays.
I think I contribute everything that I do with no expectation for a return on that because I want that to continue. I want to be able to use free things and not have to pay for them. So I'm going to continue to give away what I'm doing for free, because you're getting stuff for free, right?
Yeah. So there has to be a limit, though, because that's the thing. Like somebody just said, E3D and Prusa wouldn't exist without open source. Correct. But as companies grow, you have to keep making money, otherwise the company goes under. So if you keep putting out a design, yes, if you started with an open source design, but Prusa didn't sell as many printers over, if you look at Prusa's growth rate, they sold more printers this year than last year, but the numbers dropping, like because other designs or whatever. Same with E3D probably. So yes, you could start with open source, but eventually you're gonna lose share. And if you lose share, the money starts, you don't make as much money. If you don't make as much money, you have to start firing employees. You have to start cost cutting. You have to start, and it's a vicious cycle, I think.
Yeah. Individual things. That's individual things, though. I think the idea behind there's always going to be new things coming through. I don't really have this fleshed out completely in my head, what my thoughts are on it, but
yeah, it's just one of those things. It was just something to talk about for a little bit there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think LDO. Oh, yeah. Somebody asked what our thoughts on LDO. I think we both agree LDO is killing it with their kits. Jason.
Yeah,
they know what they're doing.
What's happening, and the differentiator is obviously Jason and LDO are there to make money. But what they've realized is the way to do that is to interact and seek out the different communities. LDO is in so many communities, and because they know that's them being involved is pushing their business. I for one would say if any other Physetic, any of them, if they came to us with the same level of wanting to interact and get feedback and stuff at that same level, I mean, there's nothing that's stopping us from doing it. It's just that LDO is the one that's done it, and so
they've been they're attentive. They ask for feedback. They've, you know, they sent you a beta kit to make sure everything was good. They listened to every
Mm-hmm.
suggestion you had. I know I got a beta V0 kit. They adjusted things based off that.
Yep.
They understand that, you know, there are, you know, a lot of the kits on AliExpress are just the bomb in a box. Some guy sitting there throwing everything on the list in a box and shipping it out. But when you have a community that is attentive and say loyal, I guess, to the brand, I guess you would say, seeing a company that takes the time to do things properly, to take the time to, oh, hey, you know, pre-made wiring harnesses, custom this, oh, based on feedback, we've done this. Yeah, it works. It works out for them.
What they understand is they're not first to kits, but they understand the market, and they understand that they're going to come with something that's not, as you refer, a bomb in a box. They're going to come with something that's has some added value from their point of view. And the nice thing also is that they're not expecting us to change what we're doing. They've never asked us to go through and why don't you change this so it matches our kit. Now, good or bad, their kit differs from our spec build, and
it does. There are differences, mostly electrical. It's mostly differences with electronics that they do.
Yep.
But they document it, and they have a list of everything you got to do different with their kit. And yeah, they've never requested that we do it. I've seen other companies ask us stuff. I won't go into what companies and what, but there's companies that approached, and somebody I seen asked if there have been any thoughts of licensing kits, like having an official kit. There will never be an official Voron kit because Voron is not a company. Anyone can make a kit. CNC maker, you can make a kit and sell Vorons. You can sell fully completed Vorons. Go for it. Have fun. YOLO. But that's kind of the stance of the team, is because we are not involved in a company, we're not going to sign off on anything, because we're not going to put our name on it, because we have no direct involvement in it. None of us are doing it. It'd be like endorsing. We're not going to endorse something that we had no say in. Like, it just, there will never be an official kit. Now, me, Nero 3D, the YouTuber, I'm saying, you know, LDO is good shit, buy it. But that's not an official stance of the Voron team. That's why I don't have Voron anywhere in my channel branding. Although I build a lot of Vorons, oh god.
And really, even LDO, the same advice we give for kits applies to LDO as well. If you're going to buy a kit, make sure that they're providing you with a list of what it's coming with. And the core concern about any kit is that, as not even necessarily intentionally or maliciously, but parts change, supply chains change, things change, and the kit manufacturers, LDO included, may not understand what that change is. They see this part and swap it out and not understand what that actually means. What can differentiate those kits is the level of detail that they go through in understanding that before they make those changes, and documenting and communicating to the people who are buying them what they're buying.
Yep. Like, for those that don't know, on the team, our stance on kits has kind of softened. And David, I endorse you too. Go buy some Print Solid Jesse PLA, good shit. But when the kits first came out, there was a lot of sketchiness for those first few kits that came out. V wheels or V slot extrusions, which MGN9 don't sit on V slot. Extrusions that were cut incorrectly spec motors. There were V0 kits where the motors couldn't even do half the speed of a V0 that normally does. Like, they would just not work. But even now, my Physec kit, okay, the Physec Trident kit, came with a 5-volt power supply. It has a spider in there that powers the Pi. But the bomb has a spider, or has a 5-volt power supply, so they included it. Like, they didn't need to, but they did, because that's what's on the bomb. So, they also set the wrong size panels, but it is what it is. And no hotend. Right. Those first kits were terrible. There was a lot of sketchiness in those first kits. Very suspect SSRs. That's our main thing. So that's another thing with kits is electrical. If we endorse a kit and then somebody burns their house down because they wired it up wrong, that looks really bad. So that's why the only kit I feel safe saying go for it is the LDO kit, because the wiring is pre-done. And from what I can see with my knowledge of electrical, which I have done some electrical classes in college, it looks legit and it appears to be legit wiring. So I have no problem saying their kit is good, because everything else is relying on the end user to wire it up. And if I was selling a product that if you put it together wrong, you burn your house down very easily, I would not put my name on that product.
Yeah.
Because nobody's burnt their house down with a Voron yet, and we don't want anyone to be the first. Matt Lamb, $5. Thank you, appreciate it. Any chance of Charlie and Coda on stream? I could see my wife's not home right now, so he might be mopey.
A little
Coda,
mopey.
you want to come say hi? Come on.
I got Charlie right here.
Coda, come here. Come here. Come say hi.
Come here, Charlie.
See, the problem is, though, is...
He's just waking up.
Hey. Okay. Let me...
Wrong camera?
No, because I don't have you... main overlay. Turn that off. There you go. Sorry, chat, but... There you go. There's Coda intro. You see the kitty?
There we go.
You see the cat? See the cat? No. He is now 10. He's getting big. You're getting gray.
I don't know if chat can handle this.
I don't know. They're not on screen, but they're like catto and doggo. So much fluff. I know I'm going to have to vacuum this room again. Okay, you going to go mope by the door again? There we go. Turn chat back on.
There we go.
Oh, Zogo boy. I don't have anything for you, though. I got rid of all the treats because you just keep eating them and getting fat, and you got to be on a diet because you're fat and old.
Are you kidding? Charlie is almost 15.
He's a tabby cat, though.
Yeah.
This is a 115-pound Shepherd Husky mix. It sheds
Yeah.
like crazy. Oh, it's a good boy. You a good boy? Okay. Yeah, he was crawling on your neck while we were trying to set everything up.
Yes. He was up on my shoulders.
Yeah. Coda did that, I probably would break my back. Right? What do you want? I don't have anything for you. Don't give me those eyes. He's giving me the treat eyes, and I'm like, I don't have anything. I got nothing. What do you want? Oh, you smell my mom's dog. Oh yeah, I was at my mom's house, and she just got a Bernedoodle. I think it. Bernese. Yeah,
Bernedoodle.
Bernese Mountain Dog Poodle. So it's a
They're
big
just
dog.
breeding those with everything.
Poodles are hyper. Is it poodles? Yeah, poodles are hypoallergenic, so
Yeah.
they don't shed. So that's why. So if you want a dog that doesn't shed and has curly hair, you breed it with a poodle, and you get a dog that doesn't shed and curly hair, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. What else do we got?
Okay, looking to get into Voron sometime next year. Is a 2.4 still the one to get? They're all the one to get. It depends what you're looking for. Really, the only Voron that I can't recommend, well, I could recommend them all, but in terms of like the hardest to recommend would be like the Legacy, because the Legacy is like a resto mod. Legacy is an old Voron. Like if you go look at the original V1.0 or 1.5, it's basically one of those updated with some of the new features that new printers have, but it's still linear rods and bearings, and you can only go so big with it. It's a resto mod. It's, hey, I have this old stuff, I want to make a modern printer with it.
That's funny, David.
What did David say? I tried breeding Jesse with a poodle, but Jesse still sheds like... It doesn't work on the current dog, it works on the next dog. After that, V0 would be the most niche. If you don't have a printer, I recommend don't build a V0. I don't know if you agree with me on that. Just because of its size. Just because of its size. It's 120 millimeters cubed, which, you know, I've been using it lately a lot for one-off parts and prototyping and whatnot, or I broke a part
exactly
on an Eva.
What it's great for.
But it's a 120 millimeter bed. You can only print like one Voron part on a time on it. And then after that, it really depends on what you're looking to get out of a printer. V2 and Trident, it's hard to recommend one over the other. It really comes down to your personal preference. If you want to go taller, V2. Because the gantries are the same. They print the exact same quality. Like the gantry is the same. It's just when the bed moves, when the gantry moves. V2 goes taller and the lower center of gravity. Trident, a little bit easier to build and cheaper.
Yeah.
So.
Got a question in chat. Will things like the hard K boards ever become part of the BOM?
No.
No.
That's a custom part. They are supported. It's fine to mod, and that's, you know, there are tons of mods for Vorons now, right? There's a whole website with all the mods. And I can never remember what it is. I have the link saved on my desktop upstairs. But the stock configuration will never use custom stuff, because that's the whole thing with Voron is off-the-shelf components that anyone can build anywhere in the world without having to rely on a single source vendor. Domino Vox, €5. Thank you, appreciate it. Steve, on a lonely island with only you and Charlie on it, who would be the emperor of the island?
I don't think that's a serious question.
No.
I think there's only one answer to that. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be Charlie. That's how it works. Okol 10, thank you, appreciate it. Additive manufacturing technologies are very advanced in the manufacturing sector. However, the consumer 3D printer are behind. It is like the dotted printers compared to laser printers. Patents. That's a lot of the reason. The reason 3D printing at home, hobbyist level 3D printing took off in, what was it, 2012 or 2013? I think it was roughly around, was it 2010? It was early 2010-ish, the decade before the crappy decade we're in now. Was a bunch of Strasus patents expired in regards to extrusions, or like hot ends essentially. A bunch of those patents expired and allowed at-home FDM to be a reasonable thing. So even now, I think the patent for having motors and a heated enclosure just expired. Like before, like a year or two ago, if you wanted to sell a printer that had a heated enclosure, you couldn't have the motors in the enclosure. That just was a thing. So there's still a lot of patents, I bet. Also cost, like a lot of these super advanced things, they're pricey.
Yeah.
It's very, it gets, like it's like the Forum Labs. They're laser resin printers. Look at the cost of those, and then look at like an MSLA, like an Anycubic.
What is that? Tom just reviewed one of those.
Yeah,
right? It's like $6,000.
Yeah, and it's slow as hell,
and it's small.
And it's small, but it's really good for that. It's a really good printer, but it's a commercial machine. There's a big tier jump there in terms of price, right? It's like buying an entry-level consumer graphics card and then buying a commercial tier AI processing graphics card. There's always going to be a tier there. Creative 3D Studio, cheers, $5. Mad Shammy, here's the 13 Brave 13 of Snake Island. Oh yes, those guys were badass. Although, yes, Viva Ukraine, but please no politics on stream. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. If you want politics, go watch Hassan Abi on Twitch. We ain't doing that here. But yes, screw Russia. After a rhetorical question, I knew. Okay, Joseph, $5, thank you, appreciate it. The V0 will be much more compelling at 180 millimeters. I still built 2 so far. So 180 is kind of a size I want to play with in the future, because the reason the V0 is 120 is a good reason for it. A good chunk of the reason is because of the Monoprice Select Mini. Because the Monoprice Select Mini was a popular printer in 120 millimeters, there were beds available. There were flex plates already available. So that was kind of why we went that way. So 180, you have the Prusa mini bed. So you have pre-made 24-volt beds now in 180 with carriages and whatnot. So that is tempting.
But on the flip side of that, it's very easy and practical to build a 200 build on either the Trident or the V2.4.
On a 2.4, if you look at it, right, let's go. Do I still have overhead cam on? I do. Okay. So sorry, Steve, you're not on camera right now. But if you look at a V2, this rear extrusion here, you can literally shrink this down to both of these are touching, and you can build a printer that small out of a V2. It will scale down that much. Same with the Trident, same thing. So you can easily build, or even a V1.8 if you want to save some money. You can easily build one of those down at 200. Conversely, a V0, you can just get slightly longer extrusions. You can scale up the extrusions and the rails 50 millimeters easily and get 170. And that's using non-custom parts, because you can just get extrusions that are 50 millimeters longer and rails that are just 50 millimeters longer. Beyond that,
You got
though,
a couple of...
yeah, I'm gonna try and catch up on
Okay.
them.
Okay.
But yeah, beyond that though, I wouldn't go bigger than 180, 200 on a V0 platform. It's not meant to scale that large. LDO Motors, Jason, 1999. Cheers, appreciate it. One thing I need to say is COVID control in Shenzhen HQ is very serious now. Expect our production schedule will be impacted and delayed. We don't know how serious it will be, and we'll try to control it better. Okay, well, COVID happens, man. Like you guys in China, you had the initial wave, and then you've been, in the clear for a while, and now Shenzhen's next to Hong Kong, which, if I'm not mistaken, is getting hit pretty bad with COVID, I think. And so the whole area is in pretty good lockdown. So that's okay. My wife couldn't go to work for a couple days a few weeks ago, so some guys decided to have a picnic in front of the bridge. So we're all experiencing that issue right now. Bill Brothers, $20. Too many Vorons. Can't do just one. That's why you don't do just one. Simple as that. It's like Pokemon.
N+1.
Yep. Salad fork at 150 millimeters. That is an option. You can do the salad fork. That is a Trident built with V0 parts. Okay. The Micron, which I'm building in the future, I have the kit in the other room, is a V2 built with V0 parts. So yeah.
Will the Trident be able to do non-planar printing by tilting the bed mid-print in the future? I wouldn't say no, but what would facilitate that is having that functionality be useful. As soon as that functionality is useful, I'm sure we'd look at it.
I don't even think there's slicers that do non-planar. Everything I've seen, like Stefan CNC Kitchen just did a video on non-planar printing, and there's no real slicer that can do it. You could also conversely do the exact same thing by just moving the tool head up and down. Although if you move the bed, you can actually get angles because the nozzle's fixed and whatever. But one, you'd have to redesign the stealth burner completely, because the stealth burner, the way the fans are, and there's no way you can do anything more than like a very, 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 like half a degree, not even. You ain't getting much of an angle out of a stealth burner. It's a very flat, wide tool head. Yeah, that's why most of the time you see non-planar printing, it's like a volcano by itself with no fan shroud, or the fan shroud's like way up here, just kind of like on it. So, yeah.
Do one of those V0s with the side fans.
Oh God. Yeah, don't get me wrong, speed benchies are cool, but I think people put way too much. The speed benchies have poisoned the water hole in terms of printer designs, because now everyone only cares about fast. I think that's nothing wrong with going fast, but it's overrated at a certain point. Diminishing returns. You get diminishing returns very quick.
What I want to see is what are we getting out of that? Where have we seen like the F1 analogy, where what trickle down either methods or technologies or whatever are coming from that? And it doesn't mean that it has to have come. It may still be coming, but that's something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
What
48 volt motors are kind of the new thing, is people going with 48 motors. So even if you're not running the motors faster, with 48 volts on your motors, they're running more efficiently, they're running cooler, and they're running quieter. So that's a good advantage. People weren't really jumping to 48 volts until people needed the extra overhead. But if you have the extra overhead when you're running normal speeds, it's cooler, quieter, and more efficient. So that's one. More work in ducting, I guess, for cooling, more efficient cooling. PLA does really good when you have 8 blowy matrons blasting it. ABS not so much. ABS printed fast and hot with fans blowing on it usually actually doesn't lead to great printed parts, other than speed benchies. And then I don't know, the thing is, a lot of it is custom parts though, like really light tool heads, but you don't really need really light tool heads a lot, but that usually are custom. I've seen people are doing carbon fiber tool heads now out of, like, I don't know. I don't chase grams, so I don't follow that stuff. 800 millimeter second travels. That is a good thing, because here's the thing. You could save a lot of time in 3D printing if you look at things like a machinist, where you're trying to optimize batch printing. shorter travel moves, faster travel moves, basically anything that's not the actual printing operation, try and cut that down as much as possible, and it saves time in the end. So if you can, move from one area to another at 800 millimeters a second at 20K XL, that's going to cut print time down versus 300 millimeters a second at 3K XL. And that won't affect print quality at all because you're not printing.
One of the things you get with when you start pushing the limits of speed on these printers is the need for more maintenance and more keeping an eye on things. So one of the items that could come out is assembly methods or whatever. How do we make assemblies that are more tolerant to the vibrations, the increased vibrations, increased forces that are happening at these faster speeds? And if that would just improve longevity and stuff at the slower speeds. So
yep. Somebody's saying BLDCs and servos. Servos are pricey, and you can get good stepper motors for $10-12 each, right? Servos, how cheap can you get a good servo with controller for one? And then you need 7 of them. So that you're looking at the cost of a printer and just motors. And BLDC brushless motors have crap torque at low speeds, and they have issues. I can't remember which channel it was. It might have been Vez 3D, I think, or V. Yeah. He showed printing at slow speeds with the BLDC servos, and the prints have issues because they have no torque. It's like an electric drill, right? You grab an electric drill, brushless motor, when it's going fast, you can't stop it, but when it's going slow, you can stall it out by just grabbing it. So.
You haven't tried any carbon fiber extrusion replacements, right?
I have not.
That's one of the questions from Matt Lamb. And
I have not. Because you would for the Vorons, you have to like drill them, and I don't feel like drilling carbon fiber in my house. It's a mess. I've done it, but not at home. But I don't chase grams. Like I use the same profile for all my printers because I'm lazy, and I get results that I find perfectly acceptable out of all of them. So if I did it, it would be like, cool, I can print a little bit faster on this one machine, but I'm still probably going to use the same profile on all of them because.
We're getting some questions. I don't think we have the same frame glasses.
No. Where'd you get yours at?
I don't know.
I got mine at Costco. Yeah, mine are from Costco.
No, yours are thicker. Yours are a thicker frame.
Danny Goki blue. I need to get new ones soon.
Yeah, I can't read what's on them without them on. So that's kind of a conundrum, right?
Yeah. My eyes aren't. I'm nearsighted, so I need these for far away. So actually, at home, I normally don't wear glasses. I just wear them on stream because appearance.
The Vez 3D and Mirage, the Hevart guy, those guys are amazing in that they're a little more focused than I feel like at least I am. They've got one printer. They're just trying things, and it's really cool what they're trying. And stuff. I feel like I'm a little definitely more scattered in number of printers and brain wise. So I haven't been able to focus for long enough to try something and actually give it justice. Something like a carbon fiber extrusion or something like that.
So I'm trying to stay away from Core XY. I have another build coming up that's Core XY, the Micron. I feel I've built enough Core XYs on my channel. Yes, most of them are, pretty much all of them are Vorons. I'm trying, with the Micron, I want to see what else is out there for a little bit, because I want maybe a Crow XY. I want to do a Crow XY at some point. We'll see.
We need to come up with the next big thing.
Yeah, maybe we gotta dip into the pot of Voron projects. Nitrim. Yeah, Nitrim's hot end's pretty cool, but like here's the thing. This guy has a Revo in it. My most heavily used printer has a Revo in it, and I have no problems with capacity with that for how I print and what I print. So yeah, those super high flow hot ends, I don't print with big nozzles a lot. I print with a 0.4, and with 0.4 you get diminishing returns when you go really quick. So yeah. Yeah, Keyvort is crazy fast, not much info on this. That's too one of the things with Voron. Like I've seen people ask about why don't we do try and go for a lighter tool head or stuff like that. And it's like, because the aim is to make a printer that just works. Like we're not chasing speed. It's more like thinking of it like a truck than a sports car. Like they just work. Like they're not finicky. The minion build I put together, you know, it's got the Eva tool head. I think I broke 3 parts just holding them because there's a lot of thin little parts on it. This thing I've dropped, you know, the tool head in here, the stealth burner, I've dropped this thing many times and nothing. Like, this thing's a tank. Any new Voron designs in the future? Well, yeah.
There's always something coming.
There's always something being worked on. Yeah. Because in case you guys don't know, we don't release stuff until it's like done or at least like very close to done. So, modding store-bought printers, add a direct drive to your SR. Maybe. That's in the other room. I've moved all my store-bought printers out of the room because I'm out of room, except for the resin. CAN bus. Have you played around with CAN bus, Steve?
I have not.
You have not
now
yet?
I had a Huvid board.
The Huvid or Havud? Huvid or
one of those.
Yeah.
And then I think Eddie blew up one of his, so I sent it to him, and I think he's gonna send it back now that he has some new ones.
Okay.
So I'll get to play with it. So the orange Trident behind me here is going to turn into a Tridex at some point.
That's my plan. I'll probably play with the CAN bus boards when I do the same thing to this Trident.
Yeah.
Because this thing's 350. I don't need 350, so I might as well, you know, slap another tool head in it. And then I can compare it to a Prusa XL whenever that shows up. So
it's a 250 build, and I have a 350 frame, so I'm going to make it a 350 frame wide and a 250 frame deep.
Oh yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, because IDEX you lose only the one direction. Voron has the truck, the compact mini, and the SUV of printers. Maybe in the future we do a sports car and a Cadillac. I don't know. I like to think they're like a Cadillac truck, but I don't know. The Switchwire was fun. That's a fun printer. That's just different. Nobody else does a Core XZ. So,
if you want a printer that can dance, that's it.
Yeah, that one can do dancing. Like, watch my intro. It can dance. So, currently buying parts for a 180 V0. There you go. 180 is about as big as I would go on a V0, just because of the cantilever bed, the reliance on printed parts for that. There's like no issue with printed parts at its size, and that's one of the things. Whenever we get asked about big printers, like, well, can I build a 500 V2? You can, but they're not designed with that in mind. Like, they're all designed as 250s. Every Voron, like the Trident, you designed it as a 250. The V2, they're all designed as 250s, and then you just get longer belts, rails, and extrusions. But the CAD is 250 because that's what they're designed as.
Yeah, and to that point, it's all CAD'd at 250, but in CAD the Trident was 250, but the test build was a 300.
Yeah,
because it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just once you start going big, especially with Core XY, how long the belts get. The gantry, the XY joints are printed. You get more weight on the gantry. You might run into issues, cracking. How much you can tension the belts at that size and not crack any of the printed parts. It's just variables start coming into play. And you might not have issues. You might. So that's why we just say stay within the lane. Feel like 300 is a sweet spot. That's if you don't know what size you need. 300, I think, is the good size.
The Switchwire is just such a cool printer, just because it's not necessarily a brand new idea, but it brought it to something that anybody can build. And Core XZ is still a novel feature.
Yeah, like nobody else does Core XZ. I don't think there's any. Yeah. It's its own thing. I don't know. Then again, people are always working on crazy stuff. So I've seen some of the stuff in some of the channels going on the Discord, and it's like, you guys are doing that printer. Okay, have fun with that.
So I've always had, I have this large collection of printers, so the Switchwire ends up dropping off of attention, but I'm really excited about getting back to it with some of the things I want to do with the analysis on the bed and how the magnets affect the probes and stuff like that. So
Oh yeah, you just did that on a stream with your Prusa, right? Yeah.
with the Prusa, and I'm going to take that knowledge and take it to the Switchwire. And there's a lot of features. There's new features in Klipper for avoiding the magnets, but I also want to see if we're actually seeing an effect from the magnets on the inductive probe. And we're going to do that by doing a mesh and then put on a clicky type probe and do a mesh and see how they differ.
Yeah, clicky probes, they're becoming more common. There's a few different variants of it out there. I'm playing with it for the first time on this guy, so we'll see how that works out. But
I was very late. I was very late to the clicky stuff, but I'm liking it.
I'm just getting into it now.
I say clicky, and that's unfair because there are many variations out there. But the micro switch style end stops, dockable end stops would probably be whatever.
Butcher, what about Core ZY? Take your switch wire and turn it sideways. Let's see here. So, okay, let's just do some more. Dustin Speed, I feel kind of called out. Well, I didn't call you out, Dustin. Okay, what? You've done a few mods. What's your favorite mod? Community mod on Voron?
Oh boy. I would have to say, honestly, my favorite community mod is not. I'm not going to say which one, but because I don't have a favorite between them, but it is these end stops, these micro switch based end stops. It is a big difference in, but it's more complicated as well. There's a lot more to it. You
more
have
potential for failure, more moving parts.
A significant increase in complexity, and I still absolutely, even as cool as it is, I recommend newish builders to go an inductive probe because it will just work.
Yeah. Norbs, the V2, the 1.8, the Trident, those ones are designed as 250. The V0 is designed as a 120. Dustin's doing the meme printer. I know. I just couldn't remember who it was, and I didn't know if Steve knows about the meme printer that those guys are working in the party in the back.
No.
Okay. Core XZ cantilever puller. That's all you need to know.
That's a mouthful.
Yes. So, Core XZ cantilever puller. He's like looking at the printer. He's like, how the heck is that going?
No, I'm trying to give an additional answer on mods.
The only one I've really done, I got a Heart K board. I've got, a LGX. I got a few little different ones. I got a belted Z belted Z on my V0, my original V0, which I need to pull it out and dust it off and do a few mods to it. So I might do some mods on that because I'm going to do the LGX Lite on it, update the belted Z, and maybe do a few more things on it. We'll see.
I think up there with the dockable end stop or dockable probe is the touchscreen with Klipper screen.
Yes.
That is so handy.
I don't use my screens much because I got this computer here that I control my printers from. So it's I pretty much use my screens for like moving around the tool head.
Yeah.
Pretty much moving it up. If I got to move it on the XY, I just move it by hand. But no, I've got a BTT 50, I want to say, on Tallboy. And yeah, it's Klipper screen is sexy. It is.
I know you can customize the Mini 128 display to do a lot more than we're doing with it in the default configuration. But being able to just quickly home and QGL or Z-tilt
just
from the display, it's not as easy to do that. You can't do that in the default configuration on the Mini 128 display.
Go into the different menus.
Well, you have to create those menus. Because you can't QGL in the default configuration on the Physetic display. Yeah, try to find it. I could be wrong. But I don't think it's there.
Home all, fan, steppers off. Setup? Nope, you can't QGL. Octoprint? Yep,
You'd be looking for Z-tilt. You'd be looking for Z-tilt, but still.
Yeah, nothing. See, that's the thing. Like on this printer, I can do it because I got a panel due on this one. and that one's running Klipper screen. Toasty doesn't have a screen. My V0 does have a screen. The Switchwire has a screen. So I don't.
Now there's a custom menu config for the V0 that gets the bed screw adjust function on the display, and that kind of goes back to, you can add that to the configuration on the other. I just haven't taken the time to learn how to do it.
Why don't we have that in this?
I don't think many people have.
Why don't we have that in the stock config?
A good question.
It's like, okay. See, this is the thing. You're always finding stuff that you should be tweaking and adjusting.
Yeah.
So. Let's see here. Hall effect. Hall effect's optional. It's cool, but it doesn't really. You don't need it. It's just kind of a. I have it on 2 of my printers. It's just kind of a bling thing. What is your favorite screen? Matt Lamb's asking that.
I only own 2. The WaveShare 4.3 inch and a big TreeTech 5-inch. I haven't yet installed the 5-inch, but really the screen doesn't matter. I mean,
yeah,
if it fits, really, and the next question there would probably be interface. And I think there's multiple of them, but the only one I've used is Klipper screen.
Yep.
So I would have to say that my favorite screen would be a capacitive touch somewhere in the 4 to 5 inch range, running a usable interface, and I've found Klipper screen to be usable.
I'm gonna go retro. I really like my panel do. You don't have all the options that you do with Klipper screen for sure, but it's all right there. It's very responsive. It's a very responsive screen. Like you don't misclick with a panel do. I don't know. And yes, you can use panel do with Klipper. I got a video on my channel on how to set it up. But yeah,
I have a panel do 5. I've never turned it on.
That's what I got. This is what I have right here. It's a Physec one. But yeah, it's panel do 5. I wish I still had the STLs for the case, because somebody sent them to me on Discord like years ago, or actually no, somebody sent me the files on Slack, I think. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know where they are, because it's like it's not the regular mount. It's a more compact mount for it.
My panel do was built or was bought when I was still building the Hevo.
See, that's the thing.
I just never used it.
I still have a Duet 2, and I still want to use it in something because it's a good board. Like, 2660s aren't the quietest, but there's still spread cycle.
This guy's running a Duet 2.
Yeah, it's a good controller. Duet makes good shit. The only downside with it is you need the Duet plus DuX, which gets expensive quick. So.
Yes.
Anyone put their display in the
But I bought
door?
it 3 years ago, so it's practically free.
Has anyone put the display in the door? No, because the doors are just they're just VHB'd on. They're not really designed to have the weight of a screen hanging off of them. Yeah. I've seen people mount the screens on top of the printers. I've seen that done. I don't know. Part of me is just tempted to get a tablet and just have the buttons for each printer, so I can just switch over to each printer and just use mainsail or fluid or whatever, which that's what I pretty much do on my desktop. So
got all the spam today.
All the spam. Why am I getting all the sex bots today?
I'm gonna get some water real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. Report. Goodbye. Okay. Oops. Yeah, 1 second. I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm back. And you're back. Did I unmute you? Okay, we're good. To do the screws mod for the door. I might do that on the Toasty. Because I got to play around with Toasty. I got to take all the panels off and put the... I still haven't insulated Toasty like I wanted to. But how is Toasty Boy doing? It's doing great. I use it right now. I have one of those. You might. I don't know if I showed you. I think you've seen these, Steve. The U.S. synthetic nozzles that are diamond. Yeah, the diamondback nozzles. So I have one of these in Toasty right now, and I've been printing some carbon fiber stuff with it. But it's a. Go to overhead cam here. But they got carbon insert, or actually like engineered diamond inserts.
I shouldn't be muted anymore. I forgot to hit the button on my headset.
But yeah, it's a diamond insert in it, and it's like an engineering diamond or whatever. So I'm actually playing with that in Toasty right now. So yeah, Toasty's doing fine. It's printed a lot of parts. Yeah.
I like being able to look at a screen on the front of the printer, kind of responding to chat a little more. I like being able to glance at the front without having to open up the browser and get to the right window.
Yeah, I have it all saved to my bar at the top, so they're all like right there if I need them. But any idea when? Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the new Klipper screen has a graph, a temperature graph on display now.
Ooh, I'm running whatever version was when I did the video. Any idea when Revo Voron will be available? We are not involved in the manufacturing of that. That is all E3D. I have one. I have two. They're awesome. I wish I could give you guys some, but I don't have any. They are. They made a batch to try them out. Like they made like a batch of 20. Some of us on the team got them. Like Steve has one. Those of us that were kind of involved with it got one or two from that original trial batch. And then everyone else is waiting on actual production of them. So that's kind of why some of us have some. There's only like, for the longest time, up until they started production, there was only 20 in the world. So.
Yeah, Matt Vivo, thanks for all your work. Quick question, cost reasons, is there a problem using a Prusa bed? So if you're comfortable with the modifications to do that, because you have to mount it, it's a PCB bed that has 9 points mounting. I would probably recommend using the Prusa carriage as well and figure out how to mount that to the rails. The other thing you have to consider beyond that is the magnets and what kind of probe you're using and whether that's going to be a problem or not.
Power supply.
Power supply. Yep.
Bigger power supply.
You're going to need a bigger power supply. I seriously considered doing a Prusa bed on the green 250 behind me. And at the time, I added it up and I believe it was cheaper to just do a aluminum plate with a Kinovo heater.
Yeah. So yeah, going with a Prusa, you're probably going to lose Zed because you got the sandwich there. Yeah. So you got about. Yep. So you basically would use the extrusions as is. You would situate the carriage where it needs to be, and then just literally drill some holes through the carriage, and then put it on standoffs or something. And then you would put your bed on top of that, and that's how you would probably. That'd be easy to mount. And if you have a spare bed sitting around with the carriage, that
it might be worth it.
You could use it. You'd have to upgrade to probably a 350 power supply. But yeah, so if you have one, you can use it. But if you don't have one, I wouldn't go hunting one. I would just go with the stock. Prusa XL bed on a V01. No, I don't even know if you'll be able to buy Prusa XL beds. So, because Prusa, I think you can only buy from them if you have an account with them, I think.
And aren't the segments 90 millimeters?
I want to, yeah, because how big? Prusa XL is 360.
So 360, and I think it's a.
Where the hell am I going to put a Prusa XL in here?
A 4x4 grid.
Is it 4x4 or bigger than? I thought it was
4x4.
Yeah.
Because it's 360 and it's 90. I'm almost certain that they're 90 millimeters square each segment.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's 4. Honestly, I'm waiting on the Mark IV. I know they haven't announced anything, but I got a feeling there's a Mark IV in the works because they're probably just going to take the next extruder and the segmented bed and a 32-bit controller and just throw that in a Prusa XL frame and call it a or regular Prusa frame and call it a Mark IV. So that's the thing. The Prusa XL, the Prusa 3 is starting to get a little long in the tooth. I think
It is. For sure.
It's hard to recommend.
When do you think the first XLs will hit the wild?
It'll probably
Not
be like
review units, not review units, but
I'm hoping I'm hoping I have enough YouTube cred by that point to get a review unit. We'll see, but I'm probably gonna have to buy it, and well, I got the pre-order in and wait. But I got a feeling it'll probably be like the Prusa 3 launch, where some will kind of squeak out before the end of the year, and then there'll probably be a downtime for a bit, and then they'll start to fulfill orders. So, yeah.
it's going to be so dependent on supply issues over the
It is.
next
So that's
9
another
months.
thing. Prusa, like if you notice with Prusa, they're doing everything in house now. They have their own filament manufacturing. They have a PCB factory now, or at least a machine to make PCBs. They're making their own hot end for Prusa XL. I guess E3D worked with them, but it's not an E3D hot end. It's their own hot end. So they're going all in-house, and they're not making Prusa XL open source. They're locking stuff down. Now, I understand with the having everything vertically integrated for manufacturing, though, now they don't have to worry about supply issues, which for those of us that have been involved in the planet Earth for the past 2 years, everything has supply issues now. So it kind of makes sense for them to go all vertically integrated.
But their raw materials are going to be supply issues. So,
well, that's the thing. So for those that don't know, filament, Prusa doesn't make filament. Okay, they make filament. They don't make plastic. So when you buy a spool of filament, the company that made the spool of filament literally just bought resin, which is, that's what everyone calls in the industry a gaylord of plastic pellets. So another company makes the plastic, and then all they do is just turn it into filament. So Prusa's not making their own plastic. They're buying plastic from somebody else, and they're using a machine to turn it into filament. I have a video on my channel about it. Go watch it. And then go watch Steve's channel and subscribe. But that would be pretty much, you're still relying on the raw materials, but at least you're cutting out that step. So, you still need to get, STM32 chips, which nobody can get right now. But you don't need to wait for somebody to get those chips and then make the board and then send it to you. So you can only vertically integrate so much. Prusa's not going to spin up a fab shop to make microchips. So
I'm really excited to see the XL though.
Yes.
I want to.
Some people are like, I don't get it, but I'm like, no, there's a lot there that I think.
Yeah.
But that also ties into Prusa starting to go towards the commercial and education market. They know, David, if he's still in chat here, Printed Solid, they're now the government, education, and is it commercial too? Resellers of Prusa in the US. So that machine, I think Prusa's starting to kind of get into the Ultimaker MakerBot kind of market with the XL. I think
There's definitely some design decisions that I raise my eyebrows at.
Yeah.
Just from what you can tell from the video, I'm assuming, and that's probably a bad assumption, I don't know, that the bed setup, it's not a. Are they going to do the same as like the Mark III, where they run it to the end of travel to tram it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they do that. Okay, so apparently the XL will be open source. I don't think they're going to open source everything though. I think I don't know what they're going to do with extruder. If they're going to open source everything or just like a few components. Will it be like E3D where like the cold side's open source but the hot side's not? I don't know. Let me see here. Somebody was like, a gaylord of plastic. Yeah, gaylord is an actual thing. You don't know what a gaylord is? It's an actual thing. Let me pull it up here. Container.
A lot of talk about bigger Vorons in chat, and one take on that is it takes someone who wants to build a big Voron to develop a big Voron.
Yep.
And I know I don't have room for a big Voron.
Here, I'm bringing it across.
And that's
Steve.
just one small take. That doesn't mean that we're never going to do something like that. But
Where'd Steve go? Steve!
I disappeared.
And he disappeared.
Can you still hear me?
There we go. There's Steve. I wiggled my screen and now I lost everything. Okay, so let me open OBS back up. There's OBS. Let me open up. There you guys are. Okay, we're good there. We're good there. So yes, so for those that don't know what a Gaylord is, this is a Gaylord. Okay? That is a Gaylord. Usually it's like it's a heavy duty cardboard box. That's a Gaylord. That's an actual thing. So it does exist. It is a thing. So usually it's three walls of cardboard, and then a 6mm poly liner, and then you fill it with plastic pellets. So, yep. But yeah, big Voron. Same as a tri-wall. I think that's the same term. That's the term I've always heard it called at. But you know, the shop I work at and everyone I know calls a vernier, a dial caliper a vernier. They just call it verniers. So it's a regional. If you're in upstate Utica, you would understand. It's a regional dialect. But big Vorons, yeah. So if somebody on the team wanted to make a big Voron, they would do it. I don't think anyone on the team wants, because the thing is, once you go big, you start running into other design considerations that being able to open source everything, like a lot of big printers have a lot of metal parts in them. We don't. Plus, we kind of unofficially work with what's called like the Voron toolkit, where we try to use the same parts on all the printers. So we would have a standalone printer using standalone extrusion, standalone rails, standalone screws. It would be a completely different endeavor, because it's a lot easier to start tinkering on stuff when you already have half the stuff littered around your room. So
Another point on big printers is big cost. Go out and price a 500mm square PEI sheet or flex sheet. It's really all, that's the big thing that's different about a big printer, right? Is all in the build area. So go price a 500mm slab of cast tool plate aluminum.
yeah,
all of those costs go up significantly.
Yes, before kits were really commonplace, a 350 Voron was substantially more expensive than a 250 or than a 300, because 350 is 14 inches. So for those that don't know, the Voron beds are actually inches. Vorons are designed with inch beds, 10, 12, and 14 inch beds for the V2 and the Trident and whatnot, because America. But the bed, 14 inches, is not a common size in 3D printing. There's not many 350, or at least a while ago, there wasn't a lot of 350 size printers. So finding PI for it was pricey. You had to pretty much go to a manufacturer like CS Hyde to get 14-inch PI. The heaters got expensive at that size. The bed itself got expensive at that size, because 12 inches was like a nominal size for cast aluminum plates. 14 inches is not. Yeah, it was an oddball size. But then kits came out where now AliExpress manufacturers are making them and prices have gone down on the 350s. But it used to be several hundred more to go on a 350 versus a 300, versus not much more to go from 250 to 300.
Yeah.
I wish for a 180 to 200 millimeter Voron. Build a small Trident. Build a small 1.8. Build a small V2. You can build one.
There are many 200mm V2s, and I know there's at least a couple of 200mm Tridents out there.
Yep. There's been a few.
I've modeled skirts for them.
Yep. There's been a few small ones. So you don't have to. You can build whatever you want. Like, you can build a meter by meter Voron if you want to. Please don't. But you can do whatever you want. I'm not going to stop you. I may laugh at it when you post pictures of it, but yeah. What time is it anyways? 10:30. How you doing? You want to keep going, or you want to end it at like 11, or kind of
start wrapping
sounds
it up?
Good. End it at 11. Okay.
How chat goes?
Yeah.
We get
So
some compelling questions.
Yeah, rat rig. So the rat. Yeah. If you want to go big, build a rat rig, or any of those other printers that are designed to be big, because Vorons it's designed with 6mm belts, 2020 extrusions, and MGN 9 rails. Like, it's not meant to be. So way back in the day, Steve went over how he found Voron. How I found Voron was let me pull it up here on my screen. So sorry, Steve, you're gonna be hidden for a moment here.
That's fine.
Oop. Nope. Okay. So I went to reddit.com/r/reprap. Okay. And because, I was getting into 3D printing and it's like, ooh, top all time. And I started going through. And then where is it? Oh, hey, the last 7 months of my free time, Voron RepRap by Russian Cat Food. This is what I found. This is V1.0 prototype. Yep. So I saw this and I went, that looked cool. And then I found the Voron subreddit, which led to the Voron Slack group. And then, yeah, all from there. But yeah, this is V1.0 prototype. So yeah, that's how I found Voron. So I can't remember what the original question was. Oh yeah, but it was originally designed, envisioned as a better, cheaper open source Ultimaker. That's what the original Voron was going after, was an Ultimaker. Being able to build a better Ultimaker at home, open source, cheaper. So Voron isn't meant to be a big, fast printer. It's been originally intent was to be a better Ultimaker than Ultimaker. Now, 7 years ago, Ultimaker was like the king of 3D printing, I guess, for hobbyist consumer. But yeah, lots changed since then. Anything about 2.4 R2 that you don't like or would still like to change?
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out for me is the panel clips.
Yes.
This came up earlier today for us as well. I like the door clips. I think the split doors work well. At least in the latest version of the files that aren't with R2. They came out a while back. But I like the doors. I would like to see an improved panel clip setup.
Yeah, I personally am still like, I still like the plastic ones that just twist in. That's my personal favorite. But then again, two of my V2s still have. They
I've
work.
Never used those.
They're finicky. They either work or they don't. And if they don't work, you're breaking them all. But then again, two of my V2s still use single panel front panes, like without doors, where I gotta take the little clips off and I still like that because every time I try to cut this stuff, I break it, so I don't bother. I mean, heck, the tall boy one is like 2 inches taller than the printer because that's how much a sheet from Home Depot came. It happened to fit. That is literally an off-the-shelf sheet of acrylic from Home Depot that just happens to be the right size or close enough.
2 foot.
Yeah, it's slightly undersized. Like I kind of had to make sure I was on the money when I was putting the mounts on, but yeah. Steve Builds and me, with the popular 48 volt steppers, do either of you have any experience with TMC 5160s? I have some. I might put them in here. I have a Octopus Pro. So yeah. So I have some. I think I'm gonna put them in here. So we'll play around with that. But I don't know if I'm gonna have to run 48. I'm gonna have to get a 48 volt power supply in here then.
I have a printer with a 48 volt power supply installed. I had it all working, but I had a faulty stepper driver. And it's been replaced. That one I just held up as its replacement, but I haven't had a chance to put it back in the printer to actually try it.
Yeah, basically, you're not going to see any difference in print quality. You're either going to be able to run it a little bit faster and harder than you currently do, and you'll also be able. It'll be a little bit quieter, a little bit cooler, and a little bit more power efficient. But I don't think anyone's really measuring watts and caring about power efficiency when you got a 500 watt heater going all the time. So it's kind of like, I think it's jumping from 12 to 24 volt is a pretty big jump. Jumping from 24 to 48 volt on just your motors, it's a lot more of an incremental improvement, I think, but we'll see. What do I think the best Voron for the Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder? I have mine on a Switchwire. It's working pretty good. I would say either the Switchwire or a Trident. because the Bowden is shorter. Now, on paper, it works on any Voron that uses the Afterburner or Stealth Burner toolhead or a compatible extruder. Okay, so it doesn't work on the V0. Okay, so you could put it on any Voron that uses an Afterburner or a Stealth Burner in like a Stalker. What is it? LGX, Galileo, and I think there's like one or two other supported extruders other than the stock one. But the shorter your Bowden tube, the less tuning you have to do, and the faster tool changers will be because it's a shorter distance. So yeah, so I would put it on a Trident or a Switchwire, in my opinion. I have mine on a Switchwire because I only use it for PLA, and my Switchwire is all open air. So
I'm still planning on building a 4-position one. I have parts, but I'm undecided on what printer it's going to go on.
Yeah, you can put it on any compatible Voron. It's just, what do you want to do with it? Because luckily it only has the one Bowden tube, but yeah.
So John Stern, I know you're being funny there. Best Bowden tube is no Bowden tube, but something to remember. I've seen some people's builds where they don't run a PTFE tube, a guide tube, between the spool and the tool head. And what you're doing there as your print is making these fast moves, you're jerking on the tool head. That guide tube, not a Bowden tube, it's a PTFE tube, but it evens out that pressure on your tool head. So it is critical to run a guide tube on your printer.
Yeah.
That's
not
mostly
just
for
have
the general benefit of people, because I've seen quite a few builds where they don't run, and I had a DM conversation with someone where they were showing me their prints and wondering what's going on, and they showed me their printer, and I said, hey, change this one thing, and the difference in those prints was phenomenal.
I can't remember, I think it was Tallboy. For a while I was running Tallboy without a feeder Bowden tube just because I didn't have one. I didn't have one long enough, and I actually had the filament break on me because it was printing in one little area in the back of the bed, and then it did a rapid to the front, and the filament just broke. And it's like, well, there goes that print, because you don't notice the moment it breaks, so it kept feeding in, and then it just ran out of filament. So yeah, you want that feeder Bowden because it always keeps the same amount of filament in the feeder, essentially, or in the feed path. So when it does those movements around the bed, it's not pulling or loosening the filament. It's always the same amount. So
yeah, and to what little Mike just said, Prusa kind of coined this reverse Bowden term that's kind of weird. But that's why that's such a popular mod with the Prusas, to run a guide tube to the tool head, because you're right, by default they have just the spool sitting up there on top and jerking the filament around.
And also on the Prusa too. So yeah, feeder Bowden would be a better term than reverse Bowden. But you got to remember too, on a Prusa, it's not that tall in the Z. It's only 250 in the Z, and the tool head only moves back and forth.
Yeah.
And it's a Prusa. It ain't going as fast as a Core XY with 48 volt motors. It ain't getting the same speed, so you're not seeing the same effect because it's not moving as much in more directions as fast. So on it's more critical on the larger printers. So slower bed sleever, yeah. But was the V2 R2 manual a team effort, or the manuals are pretty much Dunar? He does the bulk of the work. Other people help in little bits here and there. But Dunar is the person on the team who does the manuals, and that's him. That's his thing. Yeah, he knows those.
I spent not nearly as much time as Dunar, but I spent some time taking screenshots that he used for the manual. But putting it together, that takes a whole. It's not just knowing the program. It's layout, and that skill set there is super valuable.
Will I do a Prusa bear build? I'm assuming that question's at you because I don't have a Prusa.
No, I think I do. So I think they're asking if you're going to do one. I have a Prusa bear.
Oh,
I have a Prusa bear. Already.
If I somehow get I've never owned a Prusa. I probably should have a Prusa at some point, but I
get a mini and do a bear mini.
Do they have a bear mini? Is there a bear mini?
I think so. I'm not sure. I haven't kept
the
up.
thing is, the only thing that would be the mini's all extrusion anyways. The only real difference would be the I don't know.
But I think there is a bare mini, right? Someone will confirm.
I don't know. I just got a Discord buzz. 1 second here. Who dares? Oh, actually, let me go to main screen to make sure I don't accidentally show anything here. Who dares summon me in the middle of a stream?
Oh, there's a bare mini, but not by Greg. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's an unofficial thing. There we go. Okay. I forgot I have streamer mode off, so I got notifications. A polar bear. Ooh, a polar bear. Well, it'd have to be a polar printer, though. Yeah, I need to get a Prusa one day. Maybe I'll keep an eye out for a used Prusa Mark III or something and do a bear. We'll see. We'll see. I'm trying to move away from doing just straight Voron stuff all the time on the channel, so yeah. We'll see. Documentation is fabulous. Yeah, the R2 manual is really superb. Plus, that's another thing with doing the manual. You kind of have to figure out how to build the printer the proper way when you're making the manual, because most of us on the team build our printers before manuals are a thing. So we look at the CAD and we just kind of throw it together, or you've built enough Vorons that you kind of understand how stuff goes together. So it's kind of like Dunar has to sit down and be like, okay, how is, especially now, because the manuals back in the day used to be like kind of assuming you knew what a 3D printer was, and you kind of you understood the gist of building a printer, and you weren't a complete noob. Now we have complete noobs building Voron, so we've had to adjust how the manuals are made to be a lot more beginner friendly. So it's like, how do I bring across the point of how to build this properly, the right way, for somebody who's never touched a printer before? When you build these all the time, it's kind of like, that's quite a bunch of work to figure that out. Nero, I have to at least experience Prusa firmware one time. It's so dang convenient. It's just Marlin, right? It's just Marlin with configured for a Prusa, if I'm not mistaken.
They do have, it's a fork of Marlin.
Yeah, they have
a fork of Marlin, and it is pretty neat what they're doing in it. In the space, they're still using an 8-bit board in there.
I know.
And the calibration stuff and all that kind of stuff. It's why I decided, because I didn't need the additional headache. I at one point put Klipper on my Prusa on a SKR 1.4, and I switched it back to the Prusa firmware because it's all tailored for that printer, and it works well. That's
one of the things that if I got a Prusa, I don't know if I'd want to mess with it, because I would want it to try out Prusa profiles, because they have their whole system is built around, you just buy the machine and you use our profiles and our firmware and our filament, and it just works. And for a lot of people it does. So I would at least want to leave it alone for a bit. That's the thing, like, I don't like really modifying my printers, my commercial printers. I started modding the Ender 3, but it's like I'm just fixing what they should have just had from the beginning. That's what I when I see people modding printers, yeah, it's fun to mod. Don't get me wrong, it's fun to mod. But a lot of the times when I see, buying printers to mod, no, you're not buying, like when you buy an Ender 3 to mod it, no, you're buying an Ender 3 and then you're correcting the things it should have came with, and then you're doing some mods. So when I see like the new Ender 3 S1 that has dual lead screws and a bed probe and like all these extra things that, oh, you're taking the fun out of modding. It's like, no, they're just sending you the stuff it should have in this day and age. So start with a better one and then mod it to customize it instead of fixing it. So I don't know. If you want to get into printer modding, I say personally, like, buy a good printer to start and then build a custom printer. I think that's a much more worthwhile endeavor than I'm just going to buy a really shitty printer and then just mod it to make it a functional printer. I'd rather buy an okay printer and then build a custom printer that's my own, that I built from scratch, instead of fixing some company who wanted to be cheap and cut corners first. So I don't know. I don't know if that's kind of how you feel about mods and modifying existing printers. Well, commercial printers.
It's definitely how I feel now. It's obviously not the path I took, but
yeah. Well, everyone mods their first printer. That's right. Like I did several mods to the Monoprice Select Mini when I got it, but then I ran into issues where the Monoprice Select Mini, because it uses like a custom frame, it's not like extrusions. Extrusions, you could do so much more with an extrusion-based printer than one that's made out of sheet metal components that you can't just bolt stuff on. So modding my Ender 3 taught me about 3D printers. Well, that's true, but here's the thing. There's different ways to learn. Personally, I would say get a printer that's a functional printer so that you can learn to print good first, use that, print some good parts, and then build a printer from scratch so that you can learn how to build a printer. Because now you're learning how to build a good printer, you're not learning how to fix somebody else's shortcomings because it's your printer. Don't have shortcomings. I don't know. That's just, after being involved in designing, custom printers for several years, that's kind of my stance. Because I did start out modding a printer. One of the reasons I found Voron was, my 120 millimeter monoprice select mini was so small, I was looking at mods on how to make it bigger. And then those led to looking at bigger printers, which led to finding Voron. JokerNut, $10. Thank you. Appreciate it. In the 2.4 R2 skirts, I see there is only one power inlet filter STL size. Will that cause a space for the 300 and 350 as a front skirt B are longer? There should be a rear skirt, not a front skirt. I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I printed everything.
The size difference on the printers is in the centerpiece.
Yeah, there you go.
The power inlet and the keystone jacks are now the same, similar to Trident. The centerpiece gets wider for the bigger printer.
Yeah, I printed all the skirts for this build and I threw them in a box, so I don't know which ones I have. Jeez.
Got more.
Here girls want everyone, even you. Oh, that's sad. Girls want everyone, even you. You 3D printing nerds, you come. Okay, hit report. Why are you still here? Go away. Go away.
Do you have to report each one?
Oh god, I hope I don't have to report each one. Go away. Seriously? Move.
I would help, but we'd probably step on each other's toes.
There we go. Any recommendations on a custom printer? Voron? It depends what you want to do. Vorons are, I will say they're not cheap. If you're looking for a budget custom printer, there's options. My Bonsai is a fun little printer, but it's definitely what I would consider a Thingiverse printer. The Bonsai is. But in terms of custom printers, I have that. The Ratrig V Minion is pretty good. The kit is kind of pricey. It's like 800 Canadian once you factor in taxes and shipping and everything. But that's the full kit to build it. So that at that point you're in V0 or Switchwire money almost. Yeah, I don't know. What would you recommend for a custom printer other than a Voron?
Other than a Voron?
Because that's the thing.
I honestly don't have. I mean, I never finished my Hevo. I don't know.
Buy an Ender 3 because within a few days it'll be custom.
You could go at least go like an Ender. What is it? The Ender 5? I mean, it's still
the Ender 5. Who is responsible for the eyebrows? I think it's me. Because somebody made a joke about the idlers should have eyebrows, and then I did an MS Paint drawing of the CAD with literally MS Paint eyebrows on it with like the caption saying like "Grr, feed me GT2 belt" or something like that. And then when RCF pushed out the next revision, they had eyebrows. So some random person on Discord made a comment, I drew an image, and then RCF made it a thing. So yes, I think it's partially me. But it's funny because they're idlers. Oh, no, go ahead.
Someone in chat said, I just feel like it's a huge drop from Ender 3 V2 to Voron. One of the difficulties in recommending something is I don't know that there's anything in the custom hobby space that's as documented as Voron. And that's really where you're gonna, if you're gonna try to just find something out there that's maybe a little less complex than Voron, it's probably not really net less complex because the documentation isn't going to be there.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. We try to make the documentation as full as possible. Like pretty much a commercial experience on a printer you're building yourself. That's another thing too. The Voron had a full manual. Like I was looking at the 1.5 at the time, so it had the manual was a lot more basic back then, but still it had a full manual versus a few pictures on Thingiverse and maybe a YouTube video that covered like everything in 2 minutes. So, but yeah, in terms of jumping from an Ender 3 for skill level, I went from a Monoprice Select Mini to a Voron. Like, granted, it was a V1.5, which was a little bit simpler than the ones now, but still, plenty of people have built these, you know, never having any experience in 3D printing. Is if you have a technical ability, if you've played with Lego, you could build one of these. The most concerning part is probably the electrical. Building these is really hard. You just follow the manual. It's just knowing electrical, because even the electrical, I haven't got to the electrical part of the manual for this, but even then you still have to know how to wire stuff up, how to solder, how to crimp stuff properly. Like it's easy to screw up electrical if you don't know what you're doing. So, yeah.
Yep. That's for sure. Yeah, and other people, I didn't mean to leave out the community in that statement, but the Voron community, I mean, we've got total members approaching 30,000 and active members in the 5,000 to 6,000.
Oh,
and
if we didn't prune our Discord every couple of months, we would have many more thousands in the Discord. But we actually prune our Discord every like 3 months or something like that, of people who've been inactive for more than like a month or something like that. All the bots are Russian bots. Well, they can't be Russian bots because they're going to try and get your credit card information, and your credit card ain't going to work in Russia, so they can't be Russian bots. VZBot 235 coming out this month with a full manual. People keep telling me to look at that. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. That's the one. Huh?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was answering a question. I think how much filament you need to print a Voron. I think it's going to vary by size, obviously. But I would just assume 2 kilograms of your primary color and 1 kilogram of your accent, and you're not going to use nearly that whole roll of accent, but you're probably going to use somewhere over 1 roll of primary.
Pretty much. If buy 2 of whatever your primary color is, 1 of your accent, and that will be more than enough to print your printer and replace any printed parts that didn't print correctly, essentially. Why did I got you? There we go, split screen. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Was ready to provide you with beta testing. He was? Did he try to message me? He would have to message me. If I didn't see it in chat, sometimes chat, I miss stuff in chat. Or DMs. If he DM me, we'll see. Maybe I'll reach out to him. I'm printing my Voron parts on a CR10. And regret having to rebuild my printer. Am I able to reprint anything again with a better quality? Wait. You can print decent enough Voron parts on a CR10. Like, I printed my first set of Voron parts on a Monoprice Select Mini. Just take the time to tune your profile, maybe go a little bit slower, and you can get fully functional parts.
I printed half of my first one on a CR10.
Yeah. Hey Neuro, was ABS sticking too good to that Physec bed? It was. I ended up swapping out the bed for one of my beds that were provided to me from Fabrico, because the bed that came with it still has ABS parts stuck to it. Okay, I haven't heard anything, John, from Simon. So if he did try to reach out to me, tell him to do it again, because I might have missed it. Guys, I get like a lot of random DMs, and I miss them because a lot of times I'll get it and I'll look at my phone and it's just somebody saying, hey, I have a question, and then no follow-up. So yeah, they get buried. I hate 30mm fans. Can you have a tool head on the V0 that uses 40s? Are you okay with losing 10mm of Y travel?
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Like if you look at a V0, when that tool head's all the way over on the one side, it's touching, and when it's over on the other side, it's touching. So yeah, you're gonna lose Y travel, and then also you're gonna lose. It uses a 7mm fan, doesn't it? Or is that only? Or what is it? It uses a thinner than normal fan.
It's 7. It's 7.
Yeah. So yeah. You're gonna lose X and Y travel going to a 40mm fan. So just get a good quality fan and you should be fine. Me and Steve Builds. Do you store your ABS in vacuum bags or dry chambers? Thoughts on ABS being hygroscopic? So I don't know about you, but in my room right now, it is 30% humidity and 24 Celsius. And
Yeah.
I leave my ABS out in the open, and I've never had an issue. And I have spools that have been out for over 2 years that still print fine. So
Let's see what it says. I'm in California,
Yeah.
so it's I don't seal my ABS. I do the PET G that I have. After it's been sitting a while, I need to dry it before it prints well.
my PETG, my nylon, my polycarbonate, that stuff all gets sealed. I got dry lock bags for that, the vacuum ones. So I keep all, you know, the carbon fiber, polycarbonate, carbon fiber, nylon. I keep all that stuff in these airlock bags that have a little vacuum. So I keep those sealed. But ABS, PLA, I just leave it out in the open. It's never been an issue.
Yeah, CNC maker mentions, but ASA is, and that would align with my experience. I do have to dry my ASA after it's been out for a while.
I've only ever used 2 spools of ASA, and that was for that, and I used pretty much all of it. I have, oh god, I have this little amount here saved. This is all I have left. Oops, it's all I have left of Prusa bit, and I'm saving this to print a stealth burner front face for it when I convert it to a stealth burner, and I won't have enough. No, so I'm going to print a few layers of orange and then switch to the accent color, which I still have a spool of somewhere. So yeah, I still have a partial spool of bone or natural ASA. Can I post a link to the vacuum bags? They were sent to me. They're airlock or dry lock airlock bags. I don't know. I think Printed Solid has them. Can you show us some prints of my carbon fiber? The only one I got out right now is the stealth burner front face. Well, and mount, but all of Toasty is carbon fiber, polycarbonate, or nylon. So this is Fadis PA12 carbon fiber, and this is printed on Toasty with the Dragon High Flow and Diamondback nozzle. So it's pretty stiff. Like this stuff's pretty stiff. Although I do get a lot of issues when I'm printing carbon fiber of strings, especially the nylon and polycarbonate, or the nylon especially. I get a lot of stringing with it, so I have to like go through and clean the part up. But
yeah,
the smooth that just, it happens. You get the thing I notice is I got a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, and because of the high carbon fiber content, I think this stuff's 20% carbon fiber. You get a lot of back pressure, I find. So when it's doing, even you have to run like a really big retract, and even with a big retract, if it's a long enough travel move, it still oozes. Like if you stop to pause the print, it's just oozing out of the hot end.
The little tabs there to hold the fans in and stuff, are those still compliant?
Yep, they're all connected and everything. I'm gonna have to cut them and clean them up and everything. Yeah, it's overhead. Yeah, so they're all fully formed.
And they bend out of the way, okay?
Yep, this. Yeah, that moves. Yeah, it's
cool.
It's stiff. Don't get me wrong, it's stiff, but it'll work. Because that's actually, I think there's still a few parts in there that are the old nylon that had the creep issues. So yeah, that's one thing I'm liking we did on the Trident, where we have more room above the tool head versus the V1.8, because that was one tight.
That is one of my very early design requirements there.
Yeah, I'm like almost tempted to like buy some 2040 extrusions and just bolt them on the top of that, just to bump that top up some more. It's seriously, it's kind of annoying how little you're trying to get, like, when you're loading filament in and you got like no room there. I actually don't have my top panel on. My top panel is like free floating. Like I took the back off so that I can pop it up, and when I'm printing, I just put a spool of filament on top to keep it down. It works. Is there a mod for Revo non-Voron edition? The V6, the Revo 6 I have in Switchwire right now with a normal V6 stealth burner. That is drop-in compatible. There is a micro compatible version as well, because all of us on the team, well, not all of us, many of us on the team were part of the Revo beta, and the Revo beta units were micros. So there is a mount for that, and then there is the Revo Voron. So yes, all 3 versions of the Revo are micro stealth burner compatible.
And I pushed the Afterburner Revo Micro tool head to the Afterburner and 2.4 R2 repos.
Yeah. So if you are running an Afterburner, like not a stealth burner, you can run the micro and the 6. And the Voron one you said too?
Hmm?
And the Voron one you said? Or the Revo Voron, is that on
Not
Afterburner?
Revo Voron.
Not Revo Voron, okay. So,
Not Revo Voron.
So you want to run stealth burner anyways. It's much better in the cooling.
Mm-hmm.
Have me or you ever used Gloop on ABS? Nope.
No.
We just print on PI. I use glue stick when I'm printing nylon on PI, just to help it pop off and whatnot. But normal printing ABS, I just print on just plain PI, clean PI. Do you have any thoughts on the next extruder? Cyclodal extruder. That's the Prusa XL.
Prusa XL, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in seeing it. I have no immediate thoughts. I've looked up videos on cycloidal drives, and the mechanism is really interesting, and its application in 3D printers. I'm curious to see how it works on the XL.
Yep. Yeah, it's yeah. I don't know. They the way Joseph was saying, like they don't have concave gears. They have like the teeth are straight for pushing the filament, because apparently concave gears cause grinding. Although I don't think I've ever actually seen that to any degree that would be an issue. But it's one of those things. I'll see it in person, and then I'll make the judgment, because if it works, it works. If it don't work, it don't work. I do like how they have 2 bearings pushing the filament into the big drive gear, so that you have a lot of surface contact, but it's surface contact along straight teeth. So are those going to cut into the filament if you tighten it too much? And I don't know, it'll be cool to see. So
it'll be interesting to see if it's another one of those incremental improvements.
Yeah, is it something that on paper you see an improvement, but in the real world, you know, if I put 2 benchies next to you, one was printed without it and one was printed with, tell me which one was printed with it. Will you be able to tell the difference? So, oh wait, is Nero 3D part of the Voron team? Yes. I don't know what I do on the team, but I am on the team. I got in back in the day when I just had to be a cool guy on the Slack, before we had Discord, and the team was like 5 people. When it wasn't even a team, it was just Voron owners. Back in my day, I just showed up and I got a job. So let's see. What time are we at? Oh, we're at 11. So I think you want to end it here?
Yeah, we're good. I think this has been...
It's about 3 hours. Yeah. That was fun. See, I told you. You're like, oh, what are we gonna do for content? I'm like, don't worry, man. Don't worry. We'll get chatting. We'll get chat involved, and then it'll be boom, done.
Yeah, so I was worried. I was worried that we'd have an hour of content.
Oh God, don't worry. You get 2 people talking about technical stuff and just kind of reminiscing on chat, and hours go by pretty quick. So Loltech Greg, no. Oh, come on, it's fun. Enjoy the 3 hours. Savor it. If it goes on too long, it'll be like The Simpsons. Okay, The Simpsons stopped being good. I don't work with people because this is my job now, but I worked with people who have kids who are in school now that were born after The Simpsons stopped being good. Okay, Simpsons have been bad that long. You don't want it to go on too long. You gotta enjoy it while it lasts and end it on a good note. Plus, for Bloody JMF, it's 5 in the morning. He's got to go to bed. Or she. I don't know. Person on the internet has to go to bed. So, yes. we're going to call it there. For those who joined the stream, you're awesome. Anyone who donated, I hope I mentioned you all. If not, I apologize, but I didn't want to break up the flow of the interview. Let's see here. So, yes. So, make sure. So, I do want to thank Steve. Am I facing the right way? Yes. I want to thank English. Thank Steve for joining me here tonight. This was fun. We'll try and do something like this again in the future. I am trying to get more people on and basically make this kind of a regular thing where I interview people every now and then, because it's fun. It's fun just to talk shop and just hang out. So yeah, so before you leave, you're going to make sure you go down to that link in the description, go to Steve Builds, his YouTube channel and his Twitter. Steve, you're going to have to start tweeting.
I need to post.
You need to
terrible.
post something. Just just post picture of your cat. Just keep posting pictures of Charlie. That's all you got to do.
That's the only thing I can do for a first post. I don't think it's an option. So I just have to find the right picture.
So
anyway,
post them
thank you.
all. So yeah,
Thank you for having me on.
It's been a pleasure, Steve. So yeah, so follow Steve, ring the bell, like the sub, blah, 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 blah. You know, the YouTuber stuff, do that. So yeah, I will see you guys on Tuesday. We're going to carry on with the V2. And then Rat Rig, either Friday or Saturday. We'll figure it out. So, you convinced me I subbed to Steve. Good job. With that,
thank you.
Be safe out there. Wash your hands. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And cheers.
Thanks, everyone.